Hey, good evening. I'm tongue-tied this morning or this evening. See, this is a mess for me. I just opened my first can of Coke for the night. So, as Mr. Red Jack just said, he hopes that everyone is in good health and good spirits today because we all deserve that. As many of you know, we had that crazy show last night with Anthony, and that's probably why I have yet to recover from it. There's still I don't even think he's gotten through all the offers. So it's been a hectic day. I've been trying to follow up with the guy, but he was up incredibly late and really didn't get back with me at all today. But out of that has come some pretty cool stuff. But a gentleman who tried to get some artwork on that broadcast is going to be my guest tonight. And many of you know Josh from the chat. He's in the chat very often, and I've got him in the green room. So let's bring him into the show. Hey, Josh.
Hey, everybody. How you doing, Bill?
Clearly I'm stammering my way through the intro today. That's why I should write these things down before I get started. It's today
you do a lot of shows, and so you gotta stay on a lot, and it's not easy.
It's all right. Last night was definitely different because we usually don't go that late, up till midnight and everything. And then I probably went to bed around 2. I didn't wake up till after 10 today. So that was different for me.
Your adrenaline's got to be pumping with or without all the Coke. I mean,
it's true. It's you think that it's easy and everything, but you kind of get worked up and then try to wind yourself down. After a show, I usually try to have a drink and then maybe take a melatonin and see if that helps me kind of mellow myself out. It doesn't always work, and it didn't work last night.
Do you dream about comic art? Because I've noticed sometimes after a long show, I will have dreams of comic art.
Both Anthony and Mike have made their way into my dreams.
Oh no.
I don't think I dream too much about comic art, as far as just in general, but just I've had many dreams with them just BSing and but fortunately we're not live streaming in any of the dreams. So it's not like, I guess, taking my work entirely to bed and to sleep with me, but it is what it is. So you put in some offers, right? I know that. Did you put in an offer after the offer that I had to tell you wasn't available anymore?
No, I think I just put those out there for the Sean Phillips pages. Yeah, I saw those pop up, and
Yeah, I did too.
It's how it goes. I mean, after you did your show with Mark Hay, I picked up a few Sean pages, and such a delight. So I can't complain. I got some beauties.
Good. Yeah, I've always enjoyed Sean's work a lot. I mean, I know his technique has changed a bit, over time. I mean, he does his layouts digitally, puts blue lines them himself, and then inks them. But his work's awesome. I mean,
he's gorgeous. I mean, and I've loved it from way back when, and it just keeps getting better. Like with all the new Reckless books are just outstanding. I read them immediately when they come out. So.
Yeah, no, he's great, and Mark's great too. I think the first San Diego Comic-Con I went to in 2003, Sean was at that show, so we got to go out to a pub and have a few drinks, and yeah, he's a lot of fun, really, just an all-around great guy. So, and that's the only time I think I've met him. He hasn't been to the States, I think, since.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that collaboration, him and Ed Brubaker, I mean, the two of them are just like, they're the dynamic duo of graphic novels. They're so amazing. Everything they put out, it seems like it's just right on point and fascinating and beautiful, and
Yeah, nope, I agree. Hey, before we get started, I had a question for you, because I actually got a package in the mail today I've never had one really damaged before. Have you ever gotten a package of original art?
Yeah.
You have? Okay. Well, so tell me your horror story. I should have asked you this ahead of time. Maybe you have photographs you could have shown off.
No, my God. So there was 100 bullets. The only time I ever bought a complete issue was of 100 bullets.
Mm-hmm.
I bought some Eduardo Rizzo art, and it came from Italy. And the reason I bought it was because it featured the Green Mill, which is one of the great jazz clubs in Chicago. And had some beautiful interior pages of the Green Mill. And at the time, the whole issue was for sale. And yeah, his art rep sent it from Italy, and it just came kind of dented a little bit, where a couple, I just had to press it for, several weeks. And it was fine after a little while, but oh my God, that's heartbreaking.
Right. Did it? So you knew it was dented before you even opened it, or was it? Yeah.
Yeah, it was almost, it was one of those things where I opened it up and I saw like the top corners were just like the 2 or 3 inches of the corner. Every page was just a little bit
Right.
dented up, but that's the only time I've ever gotten a page that was damaged. I mean, most people who ship art just do a fantastic job, like you and Mark and everybody. You guys put it between boards and do all the extra
Exactly.
work. I think my fear is always that, like, because I'm in Chicago, it's going to sit outside and get wet, or sit in the
Oh
snow
yeah.
for like a few minutes. So on the days I know it comes, you always have to be outside, or you got to be ready at the ready.
Yes. No. I always had that fear in Ohio. I can tell you that because we never shoveled our front walk because it was just the way of the layout of the driveway came down, and the garage was kind of at the side. You had to do a 90-degree turn to get into the garage. So I never shoveled the walk because it was 100 feet to the front door.
Sure.
And I just figured people would always, so I shoveled around the garage door really well, but I was always fearful of, forgetting about something. And, because sometimes they take it around the back and leave it by the sliding door.
Right.
You never knew where something was going to get left. But you want to see the package I got, which is overseas as well. This was a package I was talking about on the CAF update, saying, I looked at this artwork for 3 years on this, on this person's site, and it came from the UK. But
Okay.
But here, just hold your breath, because
Oh my God! Oh,
it is
Jesus! No,
I know, isn't that bad?
that's bad.
I signed for it thinking, there was actually a little bit of water damage on it, so I was already planning on calling somebody to do some work on it.
Yeah.
But the damage wasn't on the art. It's actually I think it's a painted piece that was mounted to probably something like a mat board size heavy material.
Yeah.
And the crazy thing is that it's from a book where they so it's a DPS, right?
Oh, no.
And what they did was they shot it from the art. So the art is it's on one side or the other. And the thing is, if it's on this side, the main piece of art won't be damaged at all. But with my luck, it's going to be on this side where the crease is. So we won't know until Thursday on the CAF update. But yeah, this wasn't mailed from, it was actually mailed by the artist. And it's,
wow.
You can see it's, it's thick. I can feel there's at least a couple layers on both sides of cardboard. But somebody put something really heavy on it, because it's, it's about, I don't know, it's almost 2 foot by 3 foot in size. So
what was the shipper thinking? I mean, God, it's like,
right. I mean, and the post lady didn't, she was like, well, you can take it, not open it, and you can give it back to me tomorrow, and we can still send it back. I'm like, well, it was only, for me, it wasn't expensive. So I'm like, well, I was planning on restoring it anyway. So if it's, $100, $150, $200 to repair it, that's still, the art was only like $350. So,
right.
But yeah, I know. That's what I get.
Relatively not horrible, but yeah, but still, it just breaks your heart when you see it, and your stomach, drops.
Right. Yeah. Maureen, I was at work in the office, and Maureen comes back. She's like, "But you got to come out and look at this. I don't know if I want to sign for this."
No.
And I was thinking, I hope it's something else. It's not that artwork coming from the UK, but yeah. So we'll see. Tune in on Thursday to find out what it looks like.
I will.
Oh man, but yeah. So why don't we get to the origin story, Josh? I mean, we've kicked around a few other things, but yeah, I'm curious. You have some great artwork, so you're not you have a really good eye. You clearly don't go for the low hanging fruit. You've got some incredible pieces in your CAF gallery. So how did you get started?
So, my origin story, I think, like a lot of us, starts when I was a little kid, and to paraphrase the movie High Fidelity, or the book, did I love superheroes because I was a nerd, or was I a nerd because I love superheroes? And I think it started with a neighbor's mom made me a Superman cape, which, of course, being a collector, I have. So this is the Superman cape she made me when I was a little kid.
You still have it? That's awesome.
circa 1970 something, it's repaired in multiple spots. But I started getting I got the DC, bug early. And so it started with that. I think, soon after that, I found a photo today. This is my mom and me with my first Mego action figure, which is Shazam.
Very nice.
The classic Mego. We had them all right in the 70s. And early birthday cakes were always Batman. So I was getting the full, the full superhero treatment as a little kid. And I think we're probably almost about the same age. So it was Super Friends on Saturday mornings. It was I think I told you earlier, I've got an older brother, is about 12 and a half years older than me. So I inherited a lot of his DC comic books and those classic Neil Adams covers where Batman or Robin's like hanging from a noose, and it's like some dramatic scene that never takes place inside the comic, only on the cover.
Right.
And so I think that's how I got started. I started collecting Micronauts. I started collecting G.I. Joe action figures. I had robots. I still have a few kind of I think over this shoulder right over here. I got a couple old Megos. And so that was kind of my beginning into comic books. I started into action figures and DC. And then I think it was probably 1985 or so, a year before Dark Knight came out, and my dad took me to North Shore Comics in Northbrook, and the owner gave me like a 10% discount card that, I remember that thing. I just wore through that thing. And I was just amazed. And, those were the days where you had a relationship with the comic book store, and you'd go in and they knew what you read and they pulled things for you. And, it was, Dark Knight had come out within a couple years of me collecting, and Watchmen. And, I think at the same time I started, like entertaining my friends at high school by drawing like these like comics in, notebook paper. And a few years ago, I published them. It's really not shareable, but this is the book. It was called Super Ahole, was the of the character.
I'm sure your friends were amused, right?
Very amused, because it was all notebook paper, so it was all just ridiculous, simple, silly, goofy, and I was making fun of movies at the time. I think the term a-hole came from Joe Pantoliano or whatever from Risky Business, who referred to Tom Cruise as an a-hole, and my 14-year-old mind was like, that's hilarious. Like, that's the funniest thing ever. And so this was the character. And, it was obviously a play on Superman. And, I had there was some, plays on obviously like Wolverine. I had a stupid Wolverine, character that I drew. And it just was to amuse friends in high school. And, they always wanted to see what the next issue was going to be. And I didn't really have dreams of becoming like a comic writer or whatever. I just loved comics. And so that really was sort of my, my getting into it. And then I think my first piece of actual art, was probably when I was in college, and I went to a comic shop. I'd been collecting now for, 5-6 years. And Jill Thompson was in town, who's from Chicago, and she was illustrating the Sandman. And she just drew like a Sandman dream sketch, on a piece of backing board for me. And I didn't know what comic art was. I had no idea that this was a cool thing. I just thought this was so great. I got to meet somebody who made a comic book, and you know, and she did a drawing for me. And so, of course, I put it in a Mylar bag and I hung it in my dorm room, and I, you know, had it up for years and years and years until, you know, it was probably many years later that I started collecting my first comic art, you know? So
Now, is that that's the one that you sent me, right?
yeah, that's the one I sent you.
There
Yeah, that's the one. So, you know, it's just a simple drawing, like her marker was dying, like, but it was just like, you know, it was this classic, great image of Dream. And, you know, I just thought, wow, this is so cool to like own a piece of art that was created by an artist who I met. And, you know, I think that just sort of got the bug for me, right? Like, how
That's
cool
all it takes, right? I mean,
yeah.
Just that first piece of art. I think the first artist I approached was Walt Simonson, and he wouldn't do a sketch for me. So I didn't. It took me years. I think I was probably around 16 at the time. So I still didn't buy my first piece of art till closer to 30.
Right.
But had I gotten that piece of art, that could have changed everything for me. You know, I look back at that because I remembered it. I was after that, I was kind of afraid to approach an artist and say, you know, could you do a sketch for me after getting turned down? So go figure.
And, you know, and I'm almost embarrassed to say, like, I went to my first Comic-Con with my wife last year to C2E2.
Mm-hmm.
I did all my collecting either online or I reached out to artists directly. You know, I had kind of weird kind of collaborations. And when we get to some of the, you'll see some of the like art, the Sandman pages that we'll look at later. Like how I got them signed. So I'll share this story. So it was probably, I don't know, about 12 or 13 years ago. And I saw an ad in the paper that there was, I was doing some improv in Chicago, and there was an ad that they were looking for somebody to play Jesus, right? Which is a role either one of us could fill. And there was a comedian. His name was Tommy Tiernan, and he was like an Irish loudmouth comedian. And he was coming to Chicago to film a show. And you know how before comedy shows, they do like a little intro video.
Mm-hmm.
So this intro video, he was backstage and he was like walking into his green room, and he was having like a powwow, but with all of his jokes that he was, you know, all the like personifications of his different jokes. So there was like a sports guy, and there was a, you know, a woman in a tight dress, and then there was a cigar smoking, poker playing Jesus. So of course that's the role I got.
Yeah.
And I go to the audition and I get the role, and then we go to the shoot, and they dress me up like 6 or 8 different actors. And one of the actors, he just looks so familiar. And I'm like, and he's just this really like broad-chested guy, and, you know, really chiseled looks. And I'm like, I know you from somewhere. And he starts rattling off like all of his different roles that he's played. I'm like, nope. And then he kind of looks down and he goes, do you read comic books? And I'm like, well, yeah. And then he opens his shirt up, and he's got the Alex Ross Superman on his shirt. And I look at his shirt and I look at him, and he goes, my name's Frank Casey. I'm the model for Alex Ross's Superman. And I'm like, that's where I know you from.
That's amazing.
It was amazing. I was like, you look just like his Superman. That's incredible. And so we kind of became friendly. And then when I needed, I told him, I'm like, listen, I got some comic art pages from Vince Locke, and they're from Sandman. And, you know, I'd really love Jill Thompson to sign them. And he's like, well, I know Jill and I know Alex. I know these people. So I gave him those pages, and he took them to Jill. And I had a couple of Grendel black, white, and red pages that Jill did also.
Mm-hmm.
He got them all signed for me and brought them back. And yeah, it was just an amazing story. But I was just like, I met Superman.
I know, but who that is, here I'm thinking it's going to be an artist or something that you're talking to, but no, that's crazy. I don't think I've ever heard a story quite like that one.
No, it was amazing. And then, of course, I like pulled out my copy of Marvels and started flipping through the back where he's got pictures of all his models. I'm like, oh yeah, there's the guy. Like he used him to model for, Shazam and Superman and, and it's just his stuff's so hyper realistic that like it really looked like the guy. But yeah, it was really funny.
Yeah, just like Dino said, great story. You have a fantastic eye. I mean, that's tough. But that's funny though. You would never have got that, right? I mean, I imagine you would have just kept guessing until
no, I mean, but it's like, I mean, you've probably experienced this, like people who love comics and who love, comic art, we just kind of find each other. Like there's just you just kind of spot people out in the world and you're like, I bet, I just learned a buddy of mine who I'm working with, has a collection of comic art. And it's just like, I've known the guy for, a while and just never knew that it was something he was into. So, but eventually your talk comes around to it and then that's it. So yeah, there was, another funny story that pops to mind. So it was probably like a few years later, and it was probably like the early to mid 90s. And, my dad came to me, and my dad was in business, in real estate, and never came to me for business advice. The one time he came to me, he goes, listen, I have a friend of mine who's interested in getting me to invest in a comic book company. And I wanted to ask your advice. And I thought, that's so odd. Like, okay, yeah, well, tell me what the comic book company is. He goes, it's called Now Comics. And I thought, well, this was like early 90s. Like I'd been reading Ralph Snart and I go, Dad, I got to tell you, Now Comics is not a company I would be investing in right now. Like it's just not, they had a good run a few years ago, maybe with a couple of interesting stuff. I just don't see this company having a future. And based on that, he decided not to invest. A year later, Now Comics went out of business. The funny part of the story, though, is then my dad's friend comes to him and he goes, we closed the business. I need you to put a few things in storage for me. He goes, what do you got? He goes, I have 50,000 issues of Mr. T #1.
Oh, no. Oh my goodness.
And so for like years, my dad had a storage space and I just remember like a corner of it was just filled with boxes of these Mr. T #1s, which I'm pretty sure someone could check on this, but I think Neil Adams did the cover possibly, or maybe illustrated the whole thing. I'm not sure, but like, it was just a joke for years. Like the Mr. T #1 was just a joke we constantly would pull out. Like,
oh my gosh, that's funny. So, well, you gave him good advice, though. Clearly, yeah,
right. I mean, he wasn't like, I want to invest in this Image Comics or something. My God, I'd be a different person today if that were the case.
Kaiser said Mr. T lived right up the road in Lake Forest.
He did, and he kind of infamously like bought his house and then went outside with a chainsaw and cut down like 50 trees in his front yard, and the neighbors were up in arms. And I'm pretty sure Lake Forest passed like an ordinance that if you cut down a tree, you have to plant a tree. And it was like
all because of Mr. T.
The Mr. T law. Thank you, Mr. T.
Oh man, that's I always remember Mr. T. I think the first time I saw him on television was before he, his fame was he was like a bouncer or something, right? And there was some kind of like on the Wide World of Sports, there was some bouncer contest where he had to like race through a bar, slide over the bar, tag this, do that. And I just remember because he had the mohawk, he had a lot of chains on, but he was like the liveliest bouncer of all of them. He won whatever that thing was. And I've never been able to find that. I've like Googled it, trying to figure out what the heck was this thing that he participated in. But that was, before the A-Team and before this comic book, clearly.
Yeah.
He did that. So yeah, somebody Mr. T was famous for being Prince's bodyguard. Well, yep, I remember
Prince's
that.
bodyguard, yeah.
And Rocky 3. Wow, yes, very true. But enough about
we had some characters in Chicago. We had a few celebrity characters, and Mr. T was definitely one of them. You'd see him around once in a while.
Very cool. So you know, you got those things signed. What other interesting artists experiences did you have in your early collecting days?
You know, I think it's interesting. You know, it's like, I think in those early days, you know, because a lot of it was online, you know, I think a lot of it was, you know, like with Vince Locke, like, you know, he put up a couple of pages on eBay. You know, the same was true for, you know, for Guy Davis, probably in like 2003 or 4.
Yeah.
He put up a few pages, and those were the days when, you know, you could reach out to somebody who posted something on eBay and be like, hey, what else do you have? And that you could get on the phone with them or email them, and they could show you a bunch of stuff. So at that time, you know, I mean, Guy Davis was selling his pages for like 40 or 50 bucks a page. And back then it was like, oh my gosh, I would love, you know, what do you have? You know, and you know, that was really just, that was cool. You know, Darwyn was amazing because he, you know, he had like, he was trying to raise money for the Hero Initiative, which I have some friends who are watching tonight, probably don't know what that is, but it's, you know, it's a fantastic charity that supports, right, artists and comic book creators who have health bills and things like that in life. And kind of, you know, it just seemed like a really good cause, because you know, I figured a lot of these guys, especially ones who were working in the 70s and 80s, you know, needed a little bit of extra help. And I love that he was doing this. And so he put up a commission, and I won one of the auctions and had him do that fantastic Catwoman that's up above my shoulder. You had it ready. Yeah, beautiful. So he wrote it for Josh and Sherry. And I mean, it's the greatest commission I've ever gotten. It's just absolutely fantastic. And, you know, and I didn't want to bug him. Like, you know, weeks had gone by, and then a month or two, and I didn't hear anything about it. And so I just shot him a note like, hey, I don't mean to bug you. I know you're busy and you're working on the commissions, but just wanted to, you know, circle back and see, you know, if you'd finished this commission. And he wrote back and was like, oh my God, I'm sorry. That's my wife. Yeah, it's my favorite. I mean, he was so cool. And he was just the nicest guy. He was like, oh my God, Josh, I am so sorry. Like I just found it under a pile of stuff. I'm going to send it to you. I would love to, you know, just send your wife a little something to say sorry. So he included like an extra little sketch for her, which was just a little profile of Catwoman. And he said for Sherry. And then he put like a giant size, like Parker book in there that was like a special edition that he signed to me. Like he threw a bunch of extra stuff in there. And I just thought, what a classy, cool guy. Like it was just, you know, I never got to meet him in person, and I wished I had, but you know, from everything I've heard, he just always sounded like the nicest guy. So, I mean, that just, to me, it's always had a special place in my heart. And you know, it's got a centerpiece in our living room. So.
No, it's an amazing artwork. I love his work. I've never owned anything by Darwyn, but you know, I always have my eye out for something. But yeah, you got a good one.
Thank you. And hey, Mar, I saw you said hello. I see you're watching. It's good to see you. Thanks for watching.
Oh, good. Yeah, I meant to ask you, did you switch it to so you see the chat coming in, right?
No, I don't. How do I do that?
Right-hand side of the screen, it defaults to private chat.
Oh, comments. There it is. Yeah, I see. Okay, cool.
Yeah, sorry, I always forget to tell
people. It is. Oh, nice.
They shouldn't default to private chat because we never use it.
So I know, right on.
Like we're talking live. Why would we need the private chat? But yes, comments.
Very cool. Very cool. Good to see. Thanks for everybody for commenting. Yeah, appreciate it.
But I agree with you. The Hero Initiative does great things. You know, it's not just healthy. If somebody's, you know, got issues with making rent, or I mean, you name it. They need a ride to the grocery store once a week, kind of a thing. They find volunteers if it's not because it's not always cash, right? Sometimes it's something as simple as that, just giving them a lift to the grocery store. So they provide a lot of good services to comic creators who just are in need one way or another. So yeah, I've always been a big supporter of theirs as well, and that's cool. I mean, that's I've talked about that too. Hero Initiative has really been responsible for a lot of great artworks making it out into the hobby. I mean, a piece like that one, Darwyn might not have ever done that piece if it wasn't for the Hero Initiative. So I think we're really fortunate to have something, entities like that out there that are supportive of the arts and look for our community to kind of facilitate sales, to generate fundraising. And then we get these great artworks too.
Yeah. I think it's something that I miss. I still go to Chicago Comics. Shout out to those guys. But I miss and what I love about Hero Initiative and about the work you do is that it's about a community. It's about sharing this love. Like, it's no fun just sitting on a wall for me to enjoy. It's great to like talk to people about it and share it and see their stuff. And when you could walk into, I collect books too, and some miniature books and things like that. Like, when you can share that kind of thing and, walk into a store and people know what you're into and they're like, oh, this thing just came in, you're going to love this. Boom. When, I just reached out to Dean Motter about, getting something from him because I've always loved his art. I loved Mr. X. And when he came out with The Prisoner, that was the first I ever saw about The Prisoner. And so, I bought that at the comic shop and I'm like, this is great. And the guys at the comic shop are like, wait, this was a 1960s TV show. And I was like, wait, what? And they're like, wait, come here. And, this was the mid 80s. So they pull out like a 8th generation VHS tape and they're like, I need this back. But this is the first 3 episodes of The Prisoner. Oh, thank you. And, it's that kind of like community experience you just don't get anymore. And I went home and I watched it and I bought books on The Prisoner. And at 18 years old, I made like a pilgrimage to where they filmed it in Wales. Like, I am a total Prisoner geek, and it's thanks to those guys at the comic shop, who just knew what I would be into and were generous with their time and, sharing stuff. And it's just great.
That is awesome.
Number. Yeah. Peter's like, I am not a number.
It's been a long time since I watched it.
Yeah.
I can't even remember when I last saw it. At least over 30 years. I wouldn't mind watching it again. It was fun.
It holds up. It was.
I remember it was great.
Yeah. And, now you can stream it and it's on DVD. It was, the kids don't remember, Bill. You could, when you wanted to find a copy of The Prisoner from channel 50, you had to go find an 8th generation VHS tape. There was no way to get it. So
yeah, they don't know how. Yeah, the kids today don't know how good they've got it. Right.
That's right.
We had to work hard to get into. I mean, the pop culture things and the kind of entertainment that we were looking for. It wasn't easy, but like you just said, I mean, our the hobby are wrapped around comics one way or another. By and large, everybody's really helpful. They want to share the cool things that they've discovered, just like your friends wanted to read another issue of Super Ahole. I mean, once you're hooked, I mean, everybody wants to share.
Yeah.
So that's, when you've met an artist, have you ever let them know that you published a comic of your own?
No, never. Absolutely not. No. Are you kidding? We sat down and talked to Lee Weeks for a half an hour at C2E2. And all he wanted to talk about was improv and theater. And so it's I always feel when I meet people who are famous, one of the last things I want to do is talk about what a geek I am and how much I geek out about, and then I wrote a comic, they're going to be, oh, wow. Let me see Ahole. That needs to see a publisher one day. No, my wife and I got to meet Frank Black of the Pixies once at a show, Pixie show, right? Love him.
Man, my favorite band right there.
Right. And so I was, and a good friend of mine, shout out to my friend Josh Frank, he got us, bracelets and we were ready to leave. And they're like, those get you backstage. And I literally, I just lost my mind. And we went backstage, and there we are hanging out with the Pixies. And like, I wouldn't talk. I was just standing in the corner, and he came over and we chatted. And I kid you not, like all we talked about, I was like, so what have you been up to? He's like, oh, I just saw Paul Blart Mall Cop 2 or something. And we just talked about dumb movies for like a half an hour. It was absolutely nothing about music, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's just, I don't know. That I figure that's all they hear all day long is, you know.
Right. No, I would never have guessed that he was in the Paul Blart Mall Cop.
No, he's living in rural, you know, Massachusetts, watching just a regular guy like we are watching crap, and you know.
So Jeff Wedding wanted to know, where do we order Super A-Hole?
Yeah. Oh, geez, here it comes. There were two copies ever made of the infamous Super A-Hole, and I sent one to a friend of mine who's actually a deaf filmmaker and film historian who lives in Texas, and he also wrote like a self-published comic book called Old Fogies about you know, about deaf humor and stuff like that. And so I figured he appreciated Super A-Hole. So you know, I'm sure that I could get talked into maybe, you know, releasing a couple of issues of Super A-Hole. It was 50 issues, and some issues are only a page or two, but you know, there's some classic pages in here, you know. So
do you still have the original artwork?
I do.
You must.
Right? Yeah, I have it. I have all the original pages. Yeah, of course.
Dang. Yeah, you should. I think you know, you could sell a few copies to the folks in the hobby. I'm sure.
Well, I mean, you know, comic art fans are a good group, so you know, I might be tempted to do that.
Yeah. No. I would. Yeah, Super A-Hole Omnibus someday.
That's right. It's massive. Thank you, Marcus.
Oh man. Yeah, yes. Marcus said what it was. It should be called Supermassive A-Hole for the 2020.
That's
right. Oh boy. Yeah, I used to draw. You know, I would never show off what I did. You know, when I was in you know, like junior high and what I tried drawing my own comics too, just for fun, and they're terrible. But Maureen made me save them when we moved. You know, I was like, I think I'm gonna burn those. You know, I burned a lot of the artwork I did in college and stuff before we left. I was like, I'm not moving it.
Oh man.
And I was like, I'm gonna get rid of the comics too. And she's like, no, we got to keep those. So yeah, I just saw those the other day when I was unpacking some boxes in the office here, and I'm like, oh, these are so terrible. Why did Maureen make me? I should have kept my art from college, not the comics.
Oh, come on, some of that. It's nostalgic.
It is nostalgic. Yeah, I will give you that.
Kids are gonna want to see that one day. You know, they're gonna have a good laugh.
I hope my kids are, you know, make their own comics. That's my hope for them, but we'll see.
Oh man,
Sherry says that she could sell you original art for $10 on Heritage. That's a page, right? I think
per page. Sherry, come on, we're splitting that. We're splitting the proceeds, babe. Vacation time.
Oh man, but you know, so I was looking at your CAF gallery, and you know how in the kind of gallery owner box it kind of gives a little background on you, and then there's another box in there that kind of outlines like the artwork types that you collect and everything. But there's an art by year section in there. Now you've been a member of the site since 2010.
Yep.
But you only added artwork to your CAF gallery in 2017. And then in the last year, really, 2022 and then 2023. So what was going on in that, you know, for the first 7 years before you added anything, and then in that 5-year window where you didn't add anything?
Miami, that was a big one. So I was in Chicago 2010 and 11. I did a lot of my collecting from like 2002 to 2007 or 8. Took a break for a couple years, and then, you know, I think like every collector has the story of, you know, I sold a bunch of pieces, you know, at a certain time. And so I think I sold like, I don't know, a third of my collection, and I got into collecting some rare books, and I started collecting miniature books, which is a whole other story. And then I think it was probably, and I had a bunch of other art up that I had then sold and then took down, right? Mm-hmm. And I think every collector, right, has the like pages they were like, oh, I can't believe I sold that page, or oh, you know, I missed those pages. And I probably have like 3 or 4 pages that I've like, I said goodbye to. And there was a time where I sold off stuff that I just wasn't into anymore.
Mhm.
And shifted, because I'm a collector. So I was collecting some other things, and then I think it was just like probably in 2017 or 2018 that then I just kind of just got the bug again, and kind of just got back into it. And I think the pandemic too, like everybody else, like I was looking for things to watch and things to do, and
Mhm.
it's, kind of reconnecting to some of that stuff. So yeah.
That makes sense. I mean, it's usually something in life. I think that, because I have those gaps as well, where I didn't post any artwork to CAF, I wasn't buying artwork, or
Right.
yeah, no, I get it. Or you deleted the artwork that like you just said, you sold it, so it's gone,
Yep.
and that would remove itself from any of the metrics that we have inside your CAF gallery.
Yeah. I definitely, I had a couple other Sandman pages. I had a couple Tim Sale pages. I had a ridiculous. I think comic art fans would laugh, because there's always jokes about Cosmic Odyssey, right? There's always another Cosmic Odyssey page is popping up.
Did you have a few of those?
I had the cover to Cosmic Odyssey #1.
Oh my gosh! Well, that's
I know.
and you grew out of that. You just decided.
I got an offer I couldn't refuse, Bill.
That's funny. I was just
that I did not grow out of. I couldn't. I honestly, I didn't want to part with that page. And then it was a comic art fans person, and I put it up there, and I got 2 competing offers, and one guy just was like boom, and it was like it was many months of rent, and helping me to move from Miami, and all these things. So I was like, okay. So
well, you got to do it when you got to do it. That's
yeah.
We've all done it.
We've all done it, right?
I picked up a copy of Cosmic Odyssey 3.
Yeah.
The other day, which is a story I'm going to tell on Thursday, when I found an interesting place in Florida to buy comics.
Oh, very nice.
Very, very.
Some of my art is still in Florida. It was a guy who owns a comic shop in Florida took a bunch of pieces from me, so I know where they are, and they have a good home. So a few Serebus pages. So
oh man, you did let go of a lot of good artwork. Then I've never owned anything from Serebus.
Yeah. I think I had like 1 or 2. I wouldn't say early pages, but like a couple I had like a page from High Society, and I think I had like a Church and State page. But then like right around the end of the series, he sold a few sketches, and so I had a few like sketches that he did that were I don't think they were prelims, but I think he considered them finished stuff. And then I'm
High Society. It was always like one of my favorite storylines in there. So I mean, those pages were always sought after. So
yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, that was good stuff. So I see Sherry's talking about miniature books. Yeah, so for those interested in miniature books, this is a funny story too. I guess I can do a little.
Can you show us a miniature book, because I don't know what a miniature book is either.
Absolutely, I think Sherry could probably she doesn't mind bringing one over. So a miniature book is any book that's 3 inches or smaller, and I bought a few. So Edward Gorey has 2 miniature books. My wife Sherry is gonna.
Hi, Sherry. Nice to see you again.
Yeah. So we have a small collection of miniature books. No pun intended. We so I discovered them because Edward Gorey, who I love, and who I think I have a page up on the gallery.
You do.
And he published 2 miniature books, and so I found those, and then I discovered there's a whole miniature book society. So we decided to go to this miniature book conclave. This is a miniature book. This is The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe.
Oh my goodness.
Yep. And it's got pictures, and it's readable. And so we heard about this miniature book conclave, and we thought, oh my God, this is going to be like Best in Show, you know, where we're going to go and it's just going to be a bunch of weird people collecting miniature books. And I'm like, this could be a great documentary. Hopefully my friend Mar, who's a documentarian, is still watching this. Here's Edward Gorey's miniature book. It's called QRV. And so we went to this miniature book conclave, and sure enough, there's a lot of little grannies who collect these miniature books, and you know, who fight over them. You know, it's pretty funny when you see like a 93-year-old lady like fighting over people for, you know, collectibles, and so. But it turns out there was a lot of young people and librarians and people from all over the world, and it's like a huge hobby, and they go back thousands of years. People have miniature Bibles that date back hundreds of years. This is a miniature book. This is by Robert Louis Stevenson, called Envoy. So it opens like this.
Oh my goodness.
And then, yeah, I mean, so they're really works of art, you know, and some of them are, you know, ridiculously valuable, and some of them are very cheap. You know, this is one by a Russian guy. So why did I stop collecting, you know, comic art? This is one by a Russian guy, you know, illustrations, and it opens like this accordion, and has just, you know, beautiful, you know, color drawings.
I've never seen anything like this. That's crazy.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's really, it's outstanding. And so, you know, we went down, Bill, a deep rabbit hole of miniature books and miniature book artists and collectors, and you know, there's a lot of overlap with you know, with comic art. Here's one, just like a little, she cut out like birds,
like shadow box almost.
Yeah, from a book, and these are like old coin holders that she sewed together and made like a little, you know. So I mean, there's, you name it. And there's just any type of, this is that same Russian designer used like a laser, I think he used a 3D printer to make this. And it opens.
Oh yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like an alphabet, and they make miniature, you know, Marvel makes some miniature, you know, there's like, they've just been putting out a series. This is the Villains of Gotham City. And it's just like a slipcase with a little book that comes out. And so, you know, so we got deep into miniature books for a while. And yeah, there's like, there's collectors, and, you know, they have a Batman one. They've got a Joker one. So, and then of course there's like micro miniatures, which are like ridiculously, I can't even, this is like, there's a book in there. Trust me.
You haven't read that one though, right?
It's very hard to read. I don't know if you need a microscope or a magnifying glass, but yeah, it's fun. And you know, they're I think like comic art, there's artists, and there's, you know, there's bookbinding involved, and there's papers and leathers, and you know.
Right. And it's cool they're in slipcases, because if you're going to store them or display them, I mean, having the slipcase to put them on your bookshelf makes it a whole lot easier. So
exactly. Yeah, like they make little, just like for rare books, they make like a little box. This is like the Pit and the Pendulum. And then, you know, you open it, and yeah, there's a little miniature book inside. It's leather, and it's got illustrations and text and whatnot, so you can, you know,
it's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And there are collectors who have published, you know, books on their collection, and, you know, there's artists who came in from Japan, you know, who are making books that were in cases that were made with, you know, pressed orange peels. And I mean, it just, you know, the imagination to create some of these things, it's unbelievable. So it turned out, you know, we went as kind of a joke, and then we're now, you know, proud members of the Miniature Book Society.
Card-carrying members of the Miniature Book Society.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brett Mixon said, no Ant-Man or the Atom.
Right? Come on. Natural. Why would you make you know, villains of Gotham City, you got to do the Atom and Ant-Man. That's perfect. Yeah.
And Johnny wanted to know, and I guess I kind of was curious too. Are all of those like, are they one of a kind? So some of them have to appear to be mass produced, or
Yes.
is it
So
kind of a mix of both?
a mix of both. Like, so these are obviously mass produced. These are like $10. They're awesome. They sell them at comic shops, whatever. You know, Edward Gorey, you know, he did his, you know, they're very limited edition. He signed every single one. This is copy 225. You can see there's Edward Gorey's signature, you know, and, you know, so some of them are one of a kinds. They do competitions every year where people produce them. Sometimes they make a run of 2, or they'll do 10, or they'll do 20. And then there's some artist books. One of the guys, his mother was an illustrator, and she did original paintings in hers. They were all original paintings. You know, really cool stuff. So, yeah. And, yeah, I mean, it's, and every subject. So, you know, I think there's cuneiform tablets you could find that are probably a few thousand years old that are like miniature. Yeah, there's a lot of Bibles. And then, you know, a lot of times you'd have to carry around a book because it would get you in trouble if they caught you with it. So having a small one that fit in your pocket was good. And you can
there's
imagine
a mystique around this hobby as well, then too. So
so
yeah,
much.
I think we need a miniature super Ahole version.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it.
Oh man. Yeah, just reading through the chat a little bit, but no, that sounds very cool. So what other hobbies are you into, collectible wise? I mean, that we've got miniature books, we've got art, some comics, and then
So I think, you know, my first one was action figures. I still have a bunch of my old GI Joes, you know, recently just replaced the rubber bands that hold the body together because those crack, and you just unscrew them and put a new rubber band in. They're good as new. So Micronauts, you know, I had some old robots. I kept a few. And then, you know, my dad lived in the Southwest. He lived in Arizona. And so I started collecting. My wife just brought one over, like Hopi Kachinas. So this is like, you know, a little Hopi Kachina.
nice. Those display well. I've seen those before.
They display really well. And I have a few, and they're all like, you know, the artist will usually sign his name on the bottom, Wally Grove, First Mesa. And this is a Badger Kachina. So I have a few of those. And so, yeah, books, miniature books, Kachinas. You know, it's, I think once you're a collector, for a lot of us, like, it's just, you know, collecting things is kind of a neat thing. Oh, and so my wife reminded me, of course, sometimes your collections will merge, right? And so miniature books and comics, but also miniature, you know, also miniatures and Kachinas. This is a miniature Kachina. We found these in Park City. How cute is that?
That is awesome. You can put them on the same shelf as the miniature books.
Exactly. And they can have little fights and they can read them, and, you know. So, yeah, that's another.
I've never seen one of those either.
I had never seen it, Bill, until just a couple years ago. And of course, the moment I saw them, I'm like, oh my God, I have to buy like 5 of them.
Oh boy. Well, I hope you have a big enough house. It sounds like you still have, you know, there's with the collector in you, you're always going to be having an eye towards something else.
It's true. It's true. We do have a townhouse. We're finally in a place where, it was heartbreaking because for years we had stuff in storage. We're moving to Miami and back. And so, you know, half of my art was in a storage facility, and, you know what it's like to move. And it's when your stuff's in a box, you're just like, ugh. So,
well, like Sherry just said, the miniatures don't take up that much room. That is true. That's a good reason to be collecting those.
That's right. I will add that my wife is a comedian. She teaches at the Second City, so she'll have bits all night in the chat. Keep them coming.
All right, no, that's good. We need as much levity as we can during these shows. Just to keep
I can't rival the high level comedy that are in some of the shows. You know, I have to give I got to give my props to Anthony and Sharon for their bits. They do some good stuff. All you guys do, honestly.
Well, Anthony and Sharon take it to another level. I always love it when they come to me and they're like, "We just spent the afternoon filming, Austin Powers scene, right?" And they were on a roll there for a while. It's like every week they came back with something new.
Yeah,
and yeah, we have a show coming up. I won't give it away till Thursday, but it's gonna be good. It probably won't be a lot of memes, but the atmosphere live is going to be great. It's a pro-am show, so it's Anthony going against an amateur. But the theme is
cool.
so fun, and I really don't know what I'm gonna do yet, but I'll figure a way to play along.
Excellent.
But yeah, no, we need as much hobby in this, or humor in the hobby as possible, right? I mean, I think that sometimes it can, it can wear you down a little bit.
Yeah.
So I've enjoyed the last couple of years. I feel like it's helped me really look to the positive side of things and just be able to enjoy the hobby. And I've met more people, because of all that. I mean, when I went to this comic thing, that I've discovered here in Florida, the guy at the cash register was like, "Do you do a live stream?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's I do. Thank you for recognizing me."
It's internet famous. Yeah.
Who would have guessed? I mean, but it was cool because you run into somebody like you immediately got something to talk about. And I'm like, "Do you collect art?" "Yeah, I collect art." And he's like, "Yeah, but I own a couple Sam Keiths." And I'm like, "Do you buy them from Albert Moy?" He's like, "Yeah." I build Albert Moy's site. He's on my show every once in a while. He's like, "Oh my gosh, that's cool." So it's like you were talking about earlier. We're all a very friendly bunch at the end of the day. So
well, it's got to be that way, right? I mean, you're going to bring more people into the art and into the collecting and the hobby, and I mean, you keep it light, and I like to infuse everything with humor. I think we should always be just not taking ourselves too seriously, and I think it makes it more inviting too, and you guys are very creative in terms of the ways that you, I think, bring people in and have fun with it and have fun with each other. So.
No, that's that. Yeah, I've centered. I've got good people surrounding me. I think is what it comes down to. I knew that Mike and Anthony and Sharon's personalities would just make for a fun interaction. Even on a down night, there's something to smile about. Even like last night. I mean, Anthony didn't tell me he was going to sing to start the show, but 5 minutes beforehand, the guy sitting next to him with the guitar was riffing on some Talking Heads or something. He's like, "I got this great idea." And they practiced it 2 times, and then
it's great.
I'm like,
go for it.
I'll do whatever you guys want, and as long as it keeps them happy and engaged, and it does, and and it's always surprising. You just never know what you're going to get with those people. So, hey, Mar had a question for you. What are some of the things on your collectibles wish list?
Ooh, good question, Mar. Boy, what's on my collectibles wish list? Well, I think right now it's mostly, I think that's a good question. I think it's mostly art. Like, I think, I'd love to get a Dean Motter page from him.
Mm-hmm.
I've always really admired Gerhard, his backgrounds. I mean, his work is just amazing. Anything. I thought about having maybe him do a photo that I took when I was in India, and because it's really beautiful buildings, and he does such great detail and art, stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know. I think that's always the interesting thing about collecting is discovering new things, right? And I think that just kind of keeping my eyes open when I go places and seeing things. I one of the things I saw it today, actually. I don't have I really would love to get a miniature Torah scroll. I've seen them behind glass in museums. I saw one today at this synagogue collection case. I was like, that's so beautiful. It's in a silver case, and it's just a little scroll, those types of things where I'm just it's on my list. But I think the great thing about on Comic Art Fans, like you say, like, what's your grail? And I think our grail is just always changing. Like, it's always we'll see something and I'll be like, oh, I love that artist, or, oh, I didn't know about that person. And, I'd love a page by them, or a sketch or whatever. I think we'll be looking at one of my pages, which was the Cohen Sienkiewicz. Like, for me, that was a long term, grail, in terms of like something I'd always wanted to get from those guys. And,
Oh, cool. I mean, that was a unique experience for sure. But I agree with you that, whether it's CAF or just seeing other people share stuff on Facebook, it's funny. Like, I'll maybe not have an appreciation for an artist, and then I'll see something that I really like, buy them, and I'll be like, damn, I got to get something from that guy,
right,
or girl. It's just amazing that you can be collecting for 20 plus years and almost rediscovering somebody that you just thought you would never want to own anything by, and then you realize, wow, they were pretty good, or they were active when I was collecting comics, so I should get something by them.
Exactly.
And there's so many of those creators out there that are like that, that I haven't owned anything by, that I feel like I'm still discovering in some way or another. And you're right. I mean, I feel the same way. People ask me about a grail, and I don't think I'd ever could actually say I have a single piece that is a grail, or even my mind doesn't work like that, because I'm usually always looking for that next piece of art,
right,
that excites me, and that's my grail for the day.
Well, I think some of it is, for me, some of it is nostalgia, and I think a lot of people have talked about that, right? Like, like the Pander Brothers, Grendel, I don't know what it was, 7 or 9, like that cover where it's like her, it's like this fight scene and she's in the air. And, I had that comic on my wall for years, and it's like, I've never seen the art for that cover ever come up anywhere. But if it did, I'd sell a few pieces to get that. But then, like, you did the Comic Art Live, and you had Jiggy on, and he's introducing all these great artists like Mannix and whatever. And I'm just like, oh my God, his stuff is so great, and so it's like every other day you're just discovering a new artist who's got a cool, unique style. And, I've got pieces on the wall, from artists who I know who aren't comic artists, who just are painters, or, who I just love supporting. So I think for me, it's just connecting to an artist personally. Like, if I know who made that miniature book, or if I know who painted that, or I was able to like interact with them in some way, either in person or online or whatever, like, I love that. I like supporting artists. And I work in the arts, my wife works in the arts, we like seeing artists get paid, and for their work at the end of the day. So
exactly. And again, that's the other unique thing about our hobby is, you do get to interact with the creators. You do get to feel like you're a patron of the arts when you're able to put money in a creator's hands, or their reps, or whatever. I mean, it's a fun part of it. When I go to that IX show, which I haven't been to in a while in PA, that's always the fun part for me. All the artwork on like this wall, I've got about like 20 some odd framed pieces there, but most of them are small. But I don't have a lot of money in my budget to buy art. But when I go to that show, I try to spread it around. 150 over here, 200 there, maybe a $500 purchase. But that way, it feels good, and you're interacting with the artists right there. It does make it fun. It makes it personable, and I think that you just feel a different connection, to the artist. Yeah, you want to buy something from them. And I don't know. I agree. It is part of it's part of the fun of our hobby. Again, going to cons, getting sketches, hanging out, talking to Lee Weeks.
Yeah, exactly. It's wonderful. I mean, I waited in line. I know we'll look at some pages, but like I waited in line, twice to see Neil Gaiman, and each line was like, once they just gave me a number, they're like, come back in like 3 hours. But then when you get up there and you get to meet them and hang out with them, and I brought some art and had him sign it, and there was a page we'll look at later where he just was like, wow, all right, cool. And that was just cool. Like, it was just like, he admired this page. Everybody clearly loves Neil Gaiman and will wait all day to meet him. So, when you can meet people like that and even just exchange a few words, or support them in any way, it's really cool. So
Well, why
And
don't we start looking at some art? I kept that you've got 19 that I selected. I didn't kick anything out when you sent me that extra one.
oh, thanks, cool. Yeah, because I was like, oh shoot, I forgot this one. It's hard to
It is. It's
19.
I hear that from everybody when they have to pick 18. It's not easy. Scott Eater changed like 5 pieces on me the day of the show. Just like, I can't do it. Take these.
I don't want to do that to you, Bill.
Put these ones in. I was like, oh, whatever. We'll try to look at them all.
Yeah.
But let's see. So there we go.
Cool. Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, Gil Kane, one of the greats. And this was Micronauts. This was my go-to toy as a kid. And I'll be honest, I wasn't a huge fan of the comic. But man, you couldn't pry those toys from my hands. Like I loved Micronauts, and it was, I remember somebody telling me as a kid, like, oh, you'll outgrow these. And I remember thinking like, never. Like, I will never outgrow Micronauts. I will be playing with these toys until I am an adult. And I probably did. I probably played with them like until high school,
No, I wasn't hooked on the Micronauts when they came out, but wasn't there like a competing toy line that came out when the Micronauts came out, and they looked sort of similar, but they weren't quite. I just remember buying like something that was like a Micronauts knockoff.
Micronauts knockoff. Yeah, I think there were a couple.
And so I think that when I bought that and I realized they weren't really Micronauts, I just kind of got disappointed in everything. But I love the art from those books. So this is a really nice DPS.
Yeah, this was such a great page. One of my early pages that I got. I mean, he drew all that. That's all art. He could have done paste ups on those, figures to the left, but he just drew everything and inked it. I mean, it's beautiful. I love the action. It's got so many of the major characters in it, and it's got that Acroyer to the left, and the Bug, and everybody, and it's beautiful, and it's beautiful, and like the actual cover is so colorful in person, and it's wrap around, and yeah, it's just a beauty.
Yeah, Marcus mentions several artists, Golden, Geis, and Kane.
Yep.
Yeah.
I
think when Golden started drawing, doing some work on it with Micronauts, that was when I was like, all right, they're cool.
Yep.
That's awesome.
They had such a good team, and I have like, I mean, look at the color on that cover. I mean, like that's,
wow,
actual cover. Like it was so beautiful and dynamic. So yeah, that was for me, that was a no-brainer.
Now, was that a recent pickup or something you had for a while?
No, that's one I've had for a while. Yeah, I had that one for a good long while. That was something I picked up probably almost 20 years ago.
Dang. Man.
Yeah.
See, so that's just it. You were going after published stuff 20 years ago. That's, even for me, I was commissions and con sketches when I first started collecting around that time period. So that's great.
Yeah, I think that was the advantage of me not going to Comic Cons. Was like I can wait in line and get drawings, and after meeting Jill Thompson, I was like, this is great. Like I can just go online and find things from pages, and I think my rule of thumb, and I know a lot of people say this, but like just buy what you like. Like I buy what I love. Nothing's an investment for me. Like it's just I gotta love it. I mean, I put so much up. Shout out to Alley Gallery in Evanston and Blick in Evanston. Like I've done a lot of my framing there. You can see like there's a little pan of the room, but like, there's a few pages that are up there. And then I'll do a little bit of a walk around just to show you. There's that's some of the frame stuff I have.
Oh, really nice.
Yeah. And up there, and then even above the TV, and then this one, I mean, Blick just did an incredible job on that.
That is gorgeous.
Ridiculous. And then even when you like come into the hallway, it's like the Tim Sale, and then the Garfield.
They look good together.
They do. It fits, And my wife has a great eye in terms of like, placement for a lot of this stuff. So I credit her.
There you go. There's a minute. So you just gave us a mini cribs episode.
Mini crib.
And earlier, Rick
Flanders
said Micronauts and microbooks. He's sensing a trend here in the stuff.
Dino, thank you for that shout out. Cribs episode worthy. It means a lot coming from you, my friend.
Indeed. Yeah. Dino has one of the most unique CAF cribs.
Yes. Yeah. I was on the floor with that. That was awesome.
Yep. And Rich Danny said it was a Michael show. We're going to see that one in a little bit here.
Yeah, that was a Michael show. That was a pickup at C2E2 last year.
All right. You know what? Why don't we just go ahead and show it?
Yeah. Yeah, that was a pickup at C2E2 last year. Just I love his stuff. Like, it's just absolutely gorgeous. And, the frame that it's in, they did a real nice job with the mounting, kind of like highlighting those lines of the building underneath and the side. And, I love the lines he chooses not to include. Like, he was a master of knowing, what to draw and what to just leave. And,
Josh, Rich is saying that you have a Canuck artist fetish.
I kind of do. Yeah. I like.
Yeah, I love the lighting on this piece. Right? I mean,
yeah.
The fact that on his head there's that bright, stark white light. I mean, it's so well done. And then I've always loved Cho's approach to pieces like these when he adds the color and the background around the character. I mean, this one is very unique. It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Kazra, I agree with you entirely. Cho can do no wrong.
Cho can do no wrong.
And as Rich said, Darcho, Gerhard, and Mater.
Yep. Those are my men. Look at, and you can see. I'll take you back over for the crib, but
okay.
just to see the frame on that. Look at how nicely they did the matting to highlight it. We told them, we were like, can you cut the corners and put a little black in there? And, this was Blick. They just did a great job in terms of framing it. So.
Yeah, they tried to follow the
buildings
too. Yeah, because it's not at 90. It's definitely, that's cool. That is really cool. I've never seen anything like that before.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like to do a little extra with the framing. So I figure if you're gonna frame some of this art, like, just go for it, because it's easy to just put it into a black frame and let the art speak for itself, but sometimes it's nice to just punch it up. And
I feel terrible now about my frame. I'm gonna have to up my frame game.
Step it up, Bill. Come on.
I've just taken
it game
at that IX show. Fortunately, a lot of the art they already have framed, so I don't have to worry about it or think about it. But
right.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to put some thought into mine. Oh man. But let's see here. Well, okay, now we showed the one Darwyn Cooke, but here is another one, of course, from Parker. And this is the typical way I think most of the Parker pages are, right? With two interiors per page.
Yep. And I got that from Albert Moy.
Yeah,
that was I bought that several years ago. But again, just a great example. It's got his main character down there, but it's just got so many. I love when a page like this just takes you to all these different locations, and he's got that old silver plane, and and the horse race, and just how he decided to come in at that angle, sort of midsection, and then he captures that period so well, the hair and the outfits and everything. My God, the telephone booths, just the curve of that, oh man, everything. So great.
Yeah, I mean, you see something like this, and it reminds you of all the things that were amazing about Darwin. You look at that second panel on the second page, just the way he handled that building, right? It's a couple
Right.
of straight lines and some solid wash-in color, or, for the sky behind it, and bam, you've got this amazing building that, it's just gorgeous the way it's rendered. I mean, I'm just dumbfounded. I always love his work. I love his work so much, and this is a great example page of his. Love the plane too.
Yeah. Every book he wrote in that series, I think there were 4. I mean, it's a marvel to behold, and it's just a pleasure, and it really takes you to that time period. I mean, you know exactly where that is and when it is, and
Yeah, the last line is definitely epic. I agree.
Yep.
You bet the wrong horse.
You bet the wrong horse. Like, oh man, chilling, and just the look on his face, like, oh, it's great. Yeah.
Dang. Yeah, and I love this. These pages don't come up very often. I've been looking for one for about a year, and yeah, they're rare. Anybody who's got one doesn't want to let them go, but I don't blame them. It's
right.
To get published work. I've seen, because I've never owned anything by Darwin before. No, I've not ever owned anything, but the published stuff is hard to come by. You might be able to find a commission piece here or there, or a sketch, something that he did at a con, but the published stuff is harder and harder.
Yeah. Everything he did. Yeah. Peter said, like, New Frontier, like all the books that he did. I mean, even his work on, I wasn't a huge fan of the whole Before Watchmen series, but the issues he did were great. Like, they were just so great, even just for the art. Like, it's beautiful.
I didn't read those though, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Read them. I'm trying to become a DC fan. I'm working on it slowly. I mean, I picked up that Cosmic Odyssey book the other day.
Yeah.
Branching out a little bit.
It's in my blood. I think I started early with Superman and Batman cakes, and the Mego action figures. Like, I think that was it.
Hey, do I have your permission if I want to do a super Ahole meme for Dueling Dealers?
Hell yeah, do it. Do it.
I have a feeling we could come up with a few of those.
Please. If you need images, I've got each page, whatever you need. I'm here to support
Ahole and Thor battling, and
I'd love it.
All right, good. Well, I'll make sure that I'll credit you in some manner when we do this.
That's awesome. I didn't know Super Ahole was going to be so popular. He's back. I'll tell you, my high school friends will be thrilled to hear.
Oh boy. Let's see, what do we got next here? Yeah, this is awesome too.
Yeah.
Grendel in the shadow. That's just that's so awesome. Who doesn't love Wagner's work, right?
So yeah, so when I was in high school, my folks got divorced, and my dad was dating. We were both bachelors, and this one of the women he was dating bought me a copy of the first graphic novel of Mage, right? And it changed my life. Like, when I read Mage, it was like no other comic, and I know you love it. It's just, that first Mage book was just like nothing I'd ever seen. And I just was like, I got to read everything that Matt Wagner does, And so I read Mage, I read Grendel all the way through, his run in the Shadow, obviously. I mean, these are my two favorite, if I could pick two favorite comic book characters together, I mean, and this is great. And Jim Warden had this page. It's a variant. I guess it was used for the Baltimore Comic-Con, and man, I was just like so thrilled to pick it up from him. And it's it's a beaut. It's a beaut. Again, captures that whole like movie poster 1930s era.
Oh yeah, the composition on this thing is superb. I mean, yeah, it's gorgeous. But yeah, saying, like you said, it was Mage that really got me hooked on Wagner's work, and I've loved it ever since. It's just got a great, unique style. It was perfect for Mage, but I mean, Grendel was great. I mean, I just love everything he does. Never have ever really owned. He's another guy. It's like who's on my list for published stuff. I've owned a few
Yeah.
sketches and whatnot, but I've never really had anything of note that was published. But yeah, dang, this is gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, I picked up a page from Anthony. It was like the second page from the Demon series, which is a great series, and it was super affordable. I couldn't believe it. Like, you know, and you know, I think if people want pages with the demon in it, and I mean, who wouldn't? But you know, any page from that series is great. Just like Mage. I mean, any page from it is a beauty, and you know, this is yeah. I was so into Grendel in the 90s, you know, when that came out, that whole series. So loved it.
Oh, that's a great pickup. Now, the next piece is actually on the wall behind you.
Yes.
Dang. Sienkiewicz can do no wrong, right? I mean, this is gorgeous.
Yeah, that was my grail. I keep saying, like, bury me with that. Like, that is such a great, it's such a great page. And it's, you know, what I love about it, I mean, first of all, it's just so crazy dynamic and wild. And when you stand back from it and see it on the wall, you don't quite know what it is. Like it, you know, if I were to be like, I'm going to hang in the middle of my living room a picture of the Shadow just drilling through a bunch of guys dressed like the Shadow with an Uzi, you'd be like, that's kind of gross. But of course, Sienkiewicz does it in a way that is just like, it's like a dance. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, no, it's stunning, and I assume it's probably what, like, you know, 16 by 24 or somewhere around in there.
Yeah, it's ridiculously huge. It's ridiculously huge. It's always it's the centerpiece of any, you know, any living room that I live in. It's always like boom. And again, I mean, it's Bill Sienkiewicz. It's you know, he was in town last year. We met him. Couldn't be a nicer guy. Like, so nice. You know, his art dealer was there. I think we talked to him for like a half an hour. Like, you know, just a super nice guy. Like, I follow him on Facebook. He's just really funny, and you know, he's just always just putting out great work. Always.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've always, well, you know, initially he was hard to kind of figure out, and then I think when I saw him, you know, do his work on Moon Knight, and that's when I was like, wow, this guy's great. And then he switched to an X book, you know, doing New Mutants, and I was happier than I could ever have been, you know, as far as getting his approach to a book that I, you know, I wanted more out of, and he definitely did that. But yeah, this is stunning. I mean, I've seen a few. Well, I've seen Sal set up at you know, New York Comic Con or San Diego.
Yeah.
So you know, he always does a great presentation, and there's always pieces there by Bill that just blow your mind to see. You know, that up close and get a good look at. And yeah, no, this is stunning.
Yeah, his work is just, it defies definition. And you know, it's when you read the books, I mean, whatever it was, whether it was like, I think he did some like Black Orchid, and he did, you know, the Elektra book, and I mean, everything he did was just so different and interesting, and you know, nobody was doing what he was doing, and still, I mean, he's still just, you know, a unique artist. So yeah.
I assume you like that story that Dennis told about Bill, right, when he went to Neil Adams' studio.
Yeah. Oh, that's such a great story.
It was how you know, he gets me, or he's doing it right. I can't remember the exact quote that he said, Neil said, but that was good. You know, I mean, I think
immediately he looked at his stuff and he's like, no, this guy's got it. Yeah, this guy.
He's doing me, but he's doing me right. Just shame everybody else in the studio. I can see it, Neil, doing that though. You know, I mean, it's that was kind of the personality that you always read about, and yeah, that was funny. You want to switch over to that piece since you know, we're talking about Bill, or do you want to wait till later?
Let's do it. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let's see here. That is this one right here. So this was one of the 3 commissions that were pre-penciled before I did that interview with Bill and Dennis, and were you like just ready to go, you know, knowing that you wanted to get one? Not, or were you were specifically hoping to get the question?
I was hoping to get the question, Bill. Like like in my mind, like I've watched, I've watched every, occasionally question pages come up from the book. And that was a book I read from issue 1, which he did, Sienkiewicz did the cover for number 1.
Yeah.
And he, but the book was great. And you see pages come up occasionally and they've always gotten away from me, or they go up too high. And I'm just like, man, I'm never going to own like a Dennis Cowan, question page. And so when I heard he was doing some sketches, I was like, well, I'll sit through and I'll see what comes up. And like the second he said that was going to be, that he was going to put that pencil up and Bill was going to ink it, I'm like, done, And so that's why I think I got the first one that was up. I didn't even wait for the second one. I didn't know there was going to be 2. Great. And so somebody else got one, which is great. But they were both
turned out good.
Gorgeous. Yeah. I mean, you sent me both and I was like, oh man, they're both really good and really different. And like Bill just took a different approach, inking them. And of course he did. Yeah, that's definitely one that will get the full, frame treatment at some point, because it's just too beautiful to keep under wraps. I love that piece. And yeah, I mean, the question is just such a great character. Like as a kid, I thought like, this is great. This guy puts on a face and he's got no face, and he's got this like chemical that comes out of his belt, like, and but he's just a normal guy. Like he's just kind of like, and he's a reporter and he's, it's great. And I love the way he inked that with the circles and, in the background, like it's like street lights or something. And
yeah, it was, the pencil work was pretty nice on it too. I remember when they showed it, because the day before Dennis hadn't done anything, and I did a pre-interview with the 2 of them. Bill wanted to test his camera setup and everything, and Dennis was like, "Hey, if I do some pencil drawings, do you think Bill, would you ink them?" And Bill's like, "Yeah, sure, I can do it." And I said, "Well, how many?" I'm like, "How many you guys gonna do?" And they're like, and Dennis is like, "I could probably do 5 or 6." And
oh my God.
In 24 hours, I'm like, "Dennis, let's see what happens, because I was worried about giving Bill too much work.
Yeah, of course. No, of course.
But Bill was like, "I'll do whatever you want," but Bill set the price too. So I was like, all right, well, if Bill's kind of into it, then I think it'll work. And so it was cool. He got those 3 done.
Yeah.
Before the show, and he took on 4 others, and that was a different approach for a show to me. But I'm just so glad to see, again, it's a piece like this. So it's back. I look at the work that we've done on these shows with the artists, and like I talked about with Hero before. I just think it's cool that we've had these opportunities and these events that have allowed us to create artwork that's getting put out into the hobby. And I was so happy to see how these turned out too. So I'm glad you got one.
Yeah, me too. And I'm glad these guys just said yes to doing more, because like then you're just like, wow, now like 6 or 7 people got pages, and they, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, everybody wins, and the comments are great. The questions used to being framed, Peter. That's great.
So true, Peter.
Yep. He is that poor question. He's always getting beat up. Ah, that's great.
Yeah, we thought Sherry was the only one who was going to be telling jokes in the chat.
Oh no, I know there's a lot of humor out there. There's a lot of bits going on. Marcus is always jumping in. Yeah.
Yes, he is. Yes, he definitely is. But yeah, congrats on that. And yeah, well, I think well, I've talked with Bill once after the show, and he said maybe later in the year we might do another one. So I don't know if that'll be a co-show with Dennis and he, whether they're sharing it or if it's a one-on-one, because he was interested in selling or trying to market some of those panel pieces and that new way he's working now, rather than doing everything on one 11x17. He's just doing each panel drawn out and then reducing them, because he's like, I'm a little more gestural now the older I get. The way I see better, I see it better, and I'm like, well, why not? If you want to give it a try, I'll be happy to help one way or another.
Absolutely. And he's making them, fairly accessible and affordable. And that's, I mean, some of his pages I know I've been to, to see. I mean, it's like, you've gotta like sell a kidney. So
very true. I know I'd kill for a New Mutants page, but
Oh my
I
God.
have my limits. It's like, I mean, I don't have 15K to drop on
Right.
on a good page. I wish I did,
Yeah.
but I'll just have to wait through until one falls through the cracks or I get lucky, but yeah, I'd love
We
it.
could all go back in time to the 80s, Bill, right? And instead of
Me.
buying all these comics, we could have just, bought all the art. I mean, who knew?
Well, I remember when like Sal started repping him, and it doesn't feel like it was that long ago, like 2010, 2009. And I remember actually going onto the first site that he built for him and seeing New Mutants pages on there for like, $1,200, maybe 18, 2,500 or whatever. But back then I was thinking, oh, that's too much.
Right. It was.
It's always just a little bit out of reach, right? It's just like, it's just past my comfort zone. So but I actually got a old it was a magic. It was probably a commission con sketch kind of thing. So I have that. It's not a published page, but hey, at least it's Bill Sienkiewicz, from the early 80s of magic. So I can be content at least for that for the moment.
It's still a Sienkiewicz, right?
It is. It definitely is.
I remember the John Lovitz sketch on SNL when he used to like take a napkin and he would sign it. He goes, "It's a Picasso."
Oh, see, now that would be a great meme. We should work something like that into the show.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm making a note of that.
Yep, please. I got lots of them, Bill. We can give you memes all day long.
All right. Hey, we need fresh ideas. That's it's tough sometimes. Yeah. Well, we get some of our best ideas from the chat. We did that one meme of Mike, from Die Hard, right? And it was somebody in the chat who called him John McClane. And that was early on. We weren't even using the word claim too often, and somebody called him John McClane. They called me Billigan. I didn't come up with that. The chat came
really?
Oh, yeah. No, I didn't do it. So it's honestly, it's always been the chat that I think comes up with the best ideas, and we just kind of roll. Because then, in my mind, I'm like, well, then we got to do something with Billigan. It's too funny. They came up with it. We're going to give them what they want.
It's so funny. It's perfect, man. It looks just like him too. It's great.
Oh man, yes. Well, I'll never live that bald Billigan dance thing down. It took me forever to figure out why I look so stupid in that. I wanted to get into character so much I actually shaved the little, that I keep here. When I don't have that and I don't have any glasses on, I look like a 60-year-old man. So I will never shave this off. I will never do that again. Let's see here. What do we got next? So something a little different here by Fred Hembeck.
And this again, this is first of all, one of the classic covers from the 80s, like immediately what it is. It's so great. And I think I was watching one of your flips a few months ago, and someone was flipping through all their Fred Hembeck cards, which are so great. And again, to the point of like what's the next thing you want to get, and it's like you see something like that and you're just like, oh God, how do I not own a Fred Hembeck? And this was a fellow CAF member. And I just, I reached out to them. I'm like, if you'd ever part with it, let me know. And, and they were very kind enough to part with it. So it's just beautiful. I mean, he does such a great job. It's so funny.
Yeah. I love his work too. I've got a few sketch cards from him, and I picked up a piece. I forget even what it was, like a Spider-Man drawing at a con that he had pre-done. I always wanted to own something by Hembeck, right? I mean, his art was so prevalent in these funny places in the 70s and 80s, and just to be able to own something from him,
and to know he's just sitting around his house, like putting out, drawing these sketch cards, and they're really cute. I mean, they're, but this I couldn't pass up. This is so great. And it's such an iconic cover. Again, I owned Justice League #1 and the whole stupid series, you know, that those guys wrote, Geffen and DeMatteis. Like, it was so funny and it was so of its time. Just kind of, it had that kind of goofball feeling of the you know, the old Batman TV show, but it was like of its time, you know, and like just the, you know, the scene of him punching guy, and you know, and I've seen pages come up recently from the actual comic, right? And they're, you know, they're going for quite a bit, but you know, this is just it's just a wonderful homage to that, because you could tell he really loves them. I mean, the glow on Dr. Fate's helmet and just the look on Batman's face, like it's so fun, and his classic style, the goofy, you know. Yeah, Mara, this would make an adorable miniature. It would. It really would. She's so right. You know. Yeah, Gardner looks like a sassy Archie. Exactly. Like
Yes, he does.
You know, he really does. Like
I didn't notice that before. I can't not see it.
I can't not see it once you pointed that out. That was classic, Rich. Thanks. Yeah, I mean, it's so fun. It's wonderful. And you know, yeah, I love the.
So Jeff Wedding's flip is what kind of inspired you to want to get Add a Hembeck, huh? That's cool.
Yeah, it really did, because I was like, oh my God, these are great. Like, these are just so much fun. Like, how great would it be to just, you know, have something by him? So, and if anyone's still, you know, I still read comics and I occasionally will, you know, get things, but the New Human Target series takes place kind of during that time period of those characters. So it's got kind of Guy Gardner, and it's got like Fire and Ice, and you know, that gang, you know, the Russian, you know.
Oh yeah, nope.
So
that's cool.
Yeah,
I have not read Human Target though, but I should add it to my list, right?
It's good. You know, it's Tom King. He's writing some good stuff. You know, I like his stuff. I don't read a ton of stuff still these days, but occasionally I will dip in. So, yeah.
Well, now we're going to take a look at something by Jill Thompson, I believe. It looks like it's signed by Neil, too.
Yes, this is triple signed. I got it from Vince Locke. He signed it, and then I told you the story. I brought it to Frank Casey, a.k.a. Superman, Alex Ross's Superman, and he got Jill to sign it, and then I waited in line, and this was the page that when I brought a couple pages to Neil to sign, and he saw this page, and he just paused, and he was like, whoa. And there was just like a moment where he just kind of, you know, audibly gasped and looked at the page. And, you know, despite the fact that there was like hundreds of people in line behind us, he just took his time kind of checking it out and being like, wow, this was a great piece. And he signed it, and he signed another page of mine. And, yeah, this is like, for me, this was the, you know, for those of you who've read Sandman, it's a very important moment. This kind of seals his fate. So this is a pivotal moment. And the color page is really, you know, you could see there's some blue notes about the fact that, you know, he wanted the colorist to really have the blood dripping off his hand and stuff like that. So.
Wow, it's a gorgeous page. I mean,
yeah,
Jill Thompson's just amazing.
She is.
Wow. But that's cool though. I mean, that's, you know, you bring something back to the writer, and they're impressed with seeing the artwork too. I mean, I know Neil's always had a great appreciation for the, you know, the creators that he's been able to collaborate with. So yeah, it's a fantastic piece.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great page, and yeah, just a great series. Obviously, you know, it's
you've owned a few pages over time. So
yeah, I think I've had 3 or 4 pages, and I sold a couple, and I feel like I kept the 2 good ones.
Let's see. This next one is it's Sienkiewicz and Muth, right?
Yep. Yeah, I have a Muth. He did a panel that he did panels for Sandman, and so I have one of his, but then this was one that he did for Galactus, a Galactus series that Bill inked. And I guess what initially drew me to it, other than the fact that it's just great and dynamic, is that it's got all the cinematic angles to it. It's got close up, medium shot, and wide angle. And so it just, I loved the cinematic element to it, you know, and obviously it's got the Human Torch, and it's got Thor, and it's got Surfer, and yeah, it's just it's a great page, and Muth stuff is really fantastic. Yeah, rare team up. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm always a sucker for the 6-panel layout with the even size panels.
Right, right.
That's vintage, you
So
know,
classic, right?
period stuff. I mean, I you know, it's like it shouldn't work, but it just works so well in my mind. And yeah, so I love this.
Yeah, I've had that one probably almost 20 years. Yeah, it's just it's a unique pairing, and you know, I mean, these two guys working together, it's you know, it's great. So
Yeah, you know, I've always appreciated that about Sienkiewicz, that he's inked a lot, you know, and it's so you know, it's curious, a guy who could just you know, he could be the penciler inker of anything he wants, right?
yeah,
And yet he's been happy to lend his inking talents to so many different pencilers too. I just think you know, we're so fortunate that, you know, that he didn't, you know, that he's enjoyed doing that. And clearly from the conversation with Cowan, I mean, he loved, you know, his anytime or any chance he gets to work with Dennis. So I just think that's neat, and we're lucky that, you know, he approaches things that way.
Oh yeah, I mean, he just strikes me as just a happy, humble guy. Like, he's just he loves what he does, and he's like, if I can do it all and do the art, great. If I can ink it, great. You know, I'm gonna go nuts with this whiteout pen. You know, I'm gonna go over here, and you know, like how he described creating the Kirby crackle with Q-tips. You know, like it's just like you could just picture him creating it, and like, I'm just gonna use everything. This is so much fun. Like, he's just having a good time, and it shows in his work. You know.
Definitely it does. I forgot about the Kirby crackle and the Q-tip. That exactly. I mean, that's what you love about Bill. You can tell he's always experimenting.
Yeah. He's an and I follow him on Facebook, so I watch how he engages with people, like socially and politically, and he's just, you know, he's got his head in the right place, man. He's a really good guy all around.
Very true.
Yeah.
I think we saw this one in the stairway.
Yep.
But, this is great Tim sale. I mean, it's gorgeous. That middle panels, you know, they're all amazing, but I had to put a little focus on the middle panel because it's just so,
yeah,
the composition's fantastic. It's just a gorgeous image.
Yeah, you know, I've owned 3 or 4 of Tim's pages over the years, and yeah, this is the one that I kept. I had a couple pages throughout the years of like Batman taking his cowl off, and so I think that's what initially attracted me to this page. And just the fact that I love Tim's work, like he just, you know, those 2 series were iconic. This is from Dark Victory, and that and Long Halloween are just, in my mind, like, you know, 2 of the greatest books. And my wife says she's great.
Well, it's good that's one of your favorites when you're doing one of your less popular duties around the house.
Exactly. You gotta, you know, we gotta stay happy on the way to the litter box.
Exactly.
Not for sale. Good one, Rich. Great. Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Well, I mean, but like you said, you know, this is one of the ones you kept too, so it really is not for sale. I mean,
no, it isn't. It, you know, I had a great cover that he did for Dark Victory that was beautiful. I had another Dark Victory page, and I think I had a Spider-Man page that he did. And I mean, all of his pages. I mean, obviously, in retrospect, I wish I'd kept them all. I'm glad I kept this one. I'm super grateful to have it. Any of his work. I mean, his stuff is just beautiful. So, and the sadness in his face, you know, at the bottom, where he's just kind of lamenting the fact of like, you know, maybe if I told, if I told Harvey who I was, maybe Harvey wouldn't have gone off the deep end. And, you know, I think we can all relate to like regret that we have over, you know, maybe a friendship that we lost, or something, a relationship that went bad. And, you know, they had that great relationship, and, you know, clearly it didn't end well.
Right. So T. Gleason remembers that the Garfield was right underneath that one, and he's like,
Yes.
you should put the Garfield down by the cat litter box. Give the cat something to read while he's down there.
That's right.
And we're a cat family here too, so
Oh, good.
I totally understand the need. You know, we've introduced 2 kittens into the house, so the older cat is not too happy. Fortunately, you know, she goes outside, so that's what she does. She's just like, I can't take it anymore. Just leave me outside for a couple hours. But yeah, I love my cats.
Yeah, we're cat people. We got two sisters. They tolerate each other. That's as sisters do. But yeah, when my wife and I met 15, 16 years ago, we both had cats. I had 2, she had 1. So, and now we got 2 together. So,
Well, I love my cats to death.
Yes. As my wife points out, they have "Why the Last Man" poster that we got for free at the comic shop next to their litter box. Rest in peace. That series didn't make it, but the poster remains. So.
Yeah, that's good. Hey, you got to give them something to look at. What do we got? Oh, this is a Kirby Commandy page, man. This is awesome.
Yep. And pick that up at Dueling Dealers.
I remember that.
Give them credit for that. It's that was a grail for me. I think always, the Fantastic Four pages were a little out of my league, but this one I absolutely love. I mean, it's got everything I wanted in a Kirby page. It's got, that great image that you blew up of him in that first panel, just that full figure. Like, there's no doubt who drew that. And just all the, every panel in that is a beauty. Like, it's just, he's in every panel. He's running across, the angles, the shadow, the beautiful little crackle in the second to last, the Kirby machinery, his face in that last panel. My God.
Yeah, no, it's got everything you'd want in a Kirby Commandy page.
Yeah.
I mean, the more I'm looking at, I remember when was it Mike that sold this one? I it must have been, but but either way, yeah. When I saw this one, I even thought about it. Even in not even a DC guy, but I saw this page and I'm like, damn, this is like got everything in it you'd want.
Yeah,
in a good page. I mean, I love that. Even the last panel, with the way he's decided to light the character there. I mean, my gosh, that's just, it's crazy. And like you said, that you get the machinery that Kirby is known for.
Yeah,
I mean, that's so great.
It's so great. And he did so much great stuff. I mean, I love the Demon. Obviously, that's that series, his Demon, and then Matt Wagner continuing it decades later. Like, it's great. And and Commandy's a great series. So yeah. Wow. That's a beauty.
Well, congrats on that. I'm also very happy to have helped put some artwork out in
yes,
that's been fun.
You did it.
Yeah, that's I spent all those years running CAF and just watching people sell and not really be involved in it. So that's been for me one of the cooler parts to do Dueling Dealers, is actually to be kind of a part of the transactions, even in whatever little way I am, because I was like, man, I want to be a rep. I want to sell art. I want to look at great artwork all day long. I want to handle it. I want to handle the artwork. I'm so jealous of everybody getting to do that, and just being able to be the guy watching from the sidelines. So yeah, that's awesome.
And you're doing it. I mean, and the mystery art that you did was so much fun. I would totally do that again. That was great, and you just get to learn about different artists, and watching Mark open up the art and share it, and watching Jiggy open, you guys going back and forth. Like, it was just it was very cool. It was very cool. You just get to learn about other artists that are doing fun stuff, and like you said, putting it out into the world.
Exactly. Now let's see, this next one is this is the Amanda Connor piece, right?
Yeah, and I'm glad that I should. So that just came back from the framer. We had so much fun with that. I mean, first of all, it's a great page. My wife loves that page. And I love it. I picked it up at C2E2. I think it was Comic Connect was there, and you know, I got it from those guys, and I just love it. I mean, this is who she is. She's an Amazon. She's slicing through a bunch of people, and she's just kicking ahead at the end. You know, like, and so, you know, we wanted to frame this, and we described what we wanted, and the folks at Blick, you know, were just like, yeah, the framer is a rock star. Like, you know, you know, if you go to Blick, if you guys need a name or recommendation, you live in Chicago, I will share privately who she is. She is amazing. And we were like, here's what we want. We want, you know, stars. She's like, hold on a sec. She like goes in the back. She comes out 5 minutes later with a mat, and it's like done. The stars are cut into it. Like, I don't know how she did it. And we're like, that's exactly it. And we want it gold from behind, and it's like gold around the actual piece, and then gold in the frame. It was masterful, her job. So I think, you know, for me, the art is as cool as the framing job in this one. Like, I love it. Love it. Yeah, she's done some great stuff for us. Yeah. And whenever we bring, like, we made an appointment to get art, like, framing done. And she heard that we were coming in again, and she like called us up and was like, listen, you made an appointment with this other framer. I want to do it. So can you come in a few days later and do it with me? Because I want to see your art. And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. We have a relationship.
Oh, well, you've converted her into a comic art fan. I mean, does she collect, or does she appreciate?
Yeah, I mean, all these people. So Blick is like it's like a family owned, but they've got a few stores, and it's an art store. They sell art supplies. So everybody who works there is an artist. And so even the people in the framing section are all artists. And so, you know, they're all like just ridiculously talented people, in their own right. And so they all have different passions about what kind of art they do. So when you bring in original art, they just freak out. Like everybody at Blick, and also at Ahole Gallery, who's framed a lot of my stuff also, they're all artists. And I've bought, like, the guys at Ahole Gallery, I've bought art from them, like their art, because I just love supporting artists, and they're great artists. So, you know, yeah, they love it. They're into comic art. They're into all kinds of art. You know, they're afraid that they were showing me some comic books that they were getting framed. Like, they had pages from actual comic books and things, you know, that they were getting framed and doing. So yeah, they're totally into it.
Wow, that is awesome. Yeah, I imagine, you know, they don't always get to do great, cool, creative things, you know, but when you're on the call list.
Yeah, exactly. You know, they do a lot of concert posters too, and, you know, other things. But, you know, when you bring in an original piece of art and you leave it with them, and you're like, okay, but be really careful with this. You know, they get it. They're like, we know we're gonna give you your Mylar bag back when we're done. Like, you know, so they really take extra care with it. And, you know, they know it's got to be museum glass. I don't have to tell them anymore. Like, you know,
right.
They know.
I haven't gotten anything framed in a long time, but I always went to Michael's. So, but I was always frightened leaving the art there. You know, that was the thing that scared me the most. Knowing that, you know, they'd have it for a week or however long it would take, you know, when I would drop stuff off. So yeah, I'll never do a Michael's job again. I mean, they were okay, but now, you know, now that I've seen your stuff, how can you you can't go to Michael's and get something framed now.
Right. Yeah, I see a lot of people know Blick. Yeah. Oh, this one's closing. Yeah, bummer. Yeah, it's, you know, thank you, Michael, for your nice words, by the way. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's hard to leave it. And then you're like, okay, so, you know, I'll only do a couple pieces at a time.
Right. See, I was at a bunch. I would always drop off like 8 and, you know, get 8 things framed at once. And then, so yeah, it was always a week or more. And very agonizing.
I think the last time we dropped off 5 pieces, it was the Shadow Grendel, it was the Michael Cho, it was the Wonder Woman, it was the Garfield, and then I have a Michigan J Frog by Virgil Ross that we dropped off, and it was there about a month. Like, you know, but it was around the holidays, so
yeah,
you know, I never, you know, I'm always like, take your time, you know.
No, you don't want it done poorly.
Absolutely.
It's been good. I mean, the ones of Michael's that I got were pretty decent at the end of the day. I was able to, I think I sold a few pieces that I had to take out, and I was able to put other pieces in them, and they fit just perfect. And I was like, wow,
Oh, nice.
that's not bad. I get to reuse the frame because the
Right.
frames aren't cheap. You know,
Why
that's
not?
at least in, you know, if you're collecting DC or Marvel, both sides, they usually have a very uniform paper size, so you can you know, always swap things out.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Let's see here. What do we got next? We looked at that one, and here we go.
Yeah.
Sean Phillips.
Yeah, Sean Phillips. So again, you know, thanks to Mark for making these available. I mean, he emailed me the day he was dropping the pages from this book, and this was one of those pages where he was like, listen, you know, I sent him ahead of time, like, there's a few pages I want, and I like literally took pictures from the graphic novel. It's like, these are the pages I'd really love. And he's like, well, that one splash page, you know, and his site is called like Splash Page Art. You know, he's like, this one's got a lot of requests already. And so I was like, that's cool. Let somebody else grab it. I've got plenty of others. And it came up, and I literally wrote him, and I was like, you know, it looks like it's still available. And he goes, yeah, nobody's claimed it yet, you know? And I said, well, I will take it. It is a beauty. It's got, you know, it's got Ethan, who's the main character years later, you know, all scruffy and the love of his life, this girl, Rachel, and it's got that beautiful, it's just a beautiful montage scene. And then, you know, him and Anna sitting up front at the bar, and it's just, it's heartbreaking. It's about memory, and it's about regret, and it's just a beautiful page. And I you know, I picked up a bunch of Sean Phillips pages from him, from this book and from another Reckless book. I just love his work. I just love it.
Yeah, he's fearless, you know, with a brush, right? I mean, I just love his inking, and he's amazing. He's absolutely amazing, and very prolific. I mean, he pumps out a lot of work. I mean, I'm just amazed at the speed that he can get things done, and to continually, you know, have the level of work. I mean, I've just always admired his stuff, even when he was doing Marvel Zombies, right? I mean, that stuff was so cool. So yeah, this is great. But you know, and this is, I'm gonna jump to that extra piece you added in by Guy Davis, because I noticed all the books in the background.
Yeah.
And you know, I have to go to the Guy Davis artwork next.
Well, now you know me, and you know I'm into books, man.
Right.
When I see a great library, I'm like, good God.
I mean, this DPS has the most books drawn in it that any other DPS I think we may ever see.
Yep.
In all of comics, not just on the channel or on CAF or anywhere. You had to have picked this because of all the books, right?
Well, that and the fact that I wanted it included, because I think that Sherry and I might have to do a dramatic reading of these pages, because there's a great old lady in it, and I know we're going to get some good old lady voice. But yeah, I mean, it's got so many books, and I was just like, when I bought all these pages from Guy, like, I of course I had to get like a couple of good Sandman, you know, of the classic Sandman. And I have one with his hat on and one with it off. And, you know, there's some great ones of him shooting his smoke gun and whatever. But then I saw these, and I was just like, come on, like, this is first of all, yeah, Marcus, miniature books. Exactly. You know me now, Marcus. I mean, it's like, I want that library. I want to hang out in that room. Like, it's just, there's a Morning Becomes Electra poster in the second panel on the first page. Like, you know, this is some old lady who is probably who me or my wife will be in, like, you know, decades, where we're like going to be surrounded by books, and we're going to be talking about theater, and we're going to be, you know, geeking out over, you know, whatever. Like, that's what's going on here. And yeah, it's just, this is above our, right now it's above our TV. So I'm looking at it like all the time. Like, it's just, I can't, you know, I may have to move it, because it's almost like I can't even just get close enough to this page. Yeah. I think we're gonna need a bigger house.
It's perfect, Sherry. Yeah, but this is great. I mean, I hadn't seen this in your CAF before, so when I clicked on it, I was like, oh my gosh, this thing is stunning. I mean, it really is
It's
gorgeous.
ridiculous. And the fact that he just drew, I mean, you know, Guy Davis is, I think, also prolific in like what he creates. Like it's just, yeah, it's a great series. Again, Matt Wagner. And it's such of its time. Again, it's like this, you know, 19, well, I don't know, 30s or 40s. Like it's just, it's the, you know, the costumes, her hat, like even the look of their face, like they just have that kind of old-timey look. Like it's great. And yeah, it's fun. The chandelier, like I'm always finding new things in it because he just packed so much into that page, those 2 pages. Like,
Yeah, there is no wasted space on this at all.
no.
Wow. No, I love it. I absolutely love that page. It's crazy. Yeah. And I wasn't slighting Michael's when I saw Ron said he'd still get it. I'm just thinking, like, if I want to get something extra special, I'm not going to get that at Michael's. Michael's did the pieces, like I said, I mean,
they do a solid job.
That piece right, those 2 pieces right there that are framed, Kamolo and the Adam Hughes, those were framed at Michael's, and they've been in frames for almost 20 years, and they're just as good today as they were then. So if you're a fan of Michael's, I'm not saying don't shop at Michael's. I'm just saying I want to get something cool that at least on whatever might frame next, you know, do something a little extra.
Yeah. My wife has a fashion design background, and Michael's was, you know, it's your go-to place for getting anything craft. So
yeah,
you know, it's still solid. I'll still get, you know, I'll get frames there for cheap stuff, but you know, I got to go to my people. You know, once you've seen the work that they do, I'm like,
you can't go back to not for that, not for the good stuff. Let's see here. We've got 3 other pieces, I think, and Chris Samney, of course.
Yes.
So is this like what is this from? You tell me.
So this is from his Battober series from the last year. And it, you know, I picked up, I've got a couple from this series. And again, super nice guy, like communicating and you know, it's of the 3, like the reason I chose this is because in the preliminaries, I don't know if you can show any of the prelims, but like there's a hand down below that looks like maybe the Joker or something, like down below Batman, that in the, because what he would do is he would post on Twitter and Instagram his process. So he'd post like 3 or 4 pictures of the process of his creating the piece. And so at some point he decided, you know what, I'm not going to put the hand down below. Like I'm just going to have Batman swimming up. And you know, I think he even like commented on like how cool the image of like Batman underwater was. And I just love that image. Yeah. So there's the hand.
Very, very cool.
Yeah. And just I just love the composition, like him being underwater, like, yeah, see, he like crossed it out, like, no, take that out. Take that hand out.
I like it with it too. I mean, that's yeah.
I don't know. I think it's kind of cool, but you know, it's interesting his process, right? And the bubbles, like it's all, the bubble is almost like a question mark.
Yeah,
there.
I was gonna say that too. Yeah, that's so
right?
so
Like,
unique. Yeah, I love that because you don't see it here at all. I mean, that's
you don't see it at all. So it's like having the process pictures for me really makes it like, wow, he had, you know, it's things evolve, right? And it's just a real, yeah,
that is cool. Now I assume so. These were process pieces that you were able to just get. He didn't send these like this.
No. He posted those on Twitter, and I pulled them off, and I did the same. I've got the other two are over my shoulder over on this side. I've got them sitting up.
Okay.
But yeah, this one was called Submerged, and for those who are watching who aren't complete Samney geeks, yeah, Battober, there's a word for each day, and each day he would be inspired to do a drawing, and this was submerged, and so from that word he created that amazing that amazing piece. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a good score. I mean, I love his work, and yeah, this is it's great. Hand or not, it's still fantastic.
It's still great. Yeah, it's just so amazing. So
But I'm glad you included those extra images, though. I mean, I think that kind of helps tell the story of the piece.
Mhm.
You know, I always encourage people to use the auxiliary image option. You know, to show, even if it's showing the published piece, at least it gives
Yeah.
us a different perspective on something. But when somebody has a prelim, I know a lot of people have that. A lot of times they'll want to put both images separate in their CAF gallery, but
Right.
I like being able to like be in there looking at the published piece and then be able to see the prelim by just tabbing over to the the extra image that was uploaded. You know, it's just nice, and I think it gives us a little bit more backstory, to a piece, and a little bit more context, I guess. So yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for doing
Yeah, it's a great feature of the site. Once I saw people posting like the published picture, I'm like, ooh, I got to do that, and then started doing it. And it's great to have the contrast and the comparison. Yeah, the site has a lot of great little options. And I love that the cape, kind of leaves the image there.
Breaks the edge. Yeah, I mean, he was really, he's putting it, it's not just an ink sketch. He's putting a lot of thought into it. Clearly, I mean, look at the prelim work that he was. That's just not something that he was knocking out. So yeah, that's
he's doing great work on Firepower. Like the art he does on Firepower is just amazing. I mean, it's the book's pretty good, but his artwork is outstanding.
Nice.
So yeah, maybe it's the Riddler's hand, Brett. That's a good call.
Yeah. When it was a question mark.
Whose hand? Yes, considering the question mark. Good point. Yes, probably the Riddler.
All right. Now we've got a piece by Seth, someone who we don't have a lot of artworks on CAF by, but love his work.
Yeah. And there's a guy who works, I think he works for Heritage now, but he was working at a comic shop in Miami when I was down there. And I sold him a Sandman page. And at the time he had picked up a Seth page. And ever since then I was like, I would love to find a Seth page. And they just don't come up all that often. And, this was up, recently. I can't remember. I think it was Comic Connect or Comic Link. Anyway, his prelims are almost like finished pieces. So I was like, well, this is as close as maybe I'll get to owning a finished Seth, but another Canuck, his stuff is just outstanding. And again, it's like his artwork, like those last 3 panels at the bottom, I mean, it evokes a feeling. Like he's one of the only artists who, to me will just immediately create like a sense of melancholy by drawing a building, and it just evokes like a time, and there's deep emotion there. I love it. Bricks. Yeah, exactly.
They're miniature bricks too, but yeah, I love it too. I've always loved Seth's work too, and I'm actually popping around on CAF to see if there's anything for sale right now, because again, doing these interviews, I mean, it always introduces me or reminds me like, why don't I have something by this guy? And I mean, I'm like, wow, okay, there's some stuff on Scott Eater's site, there's some pieces over on the Beguiling. So I mean, it's good to be talking about artwork, because it's always giving us different ideas, right? I mean, sometimes even artwork you don't show, but we talk about it, or it leads us down a different path. I mean, and see, Rich just mentioned the same thing. The Beguiling does sell a lot of Seth artwork.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out, because it's I love his stuff, and it's A Good Life If You Don't Weaken's a great book, and Clyde fans, and all of his books are always just so unique and interesting. So
agreed. Yeah, I always love his style. So we're down to the last piece, and let's take a look at it. Another one of my favorite artists.
Yes,
Peterson. Yeah, gorgeous.
Yeah, and I knew you liked his work, and you've got a great page or two, I think, by him. Like his stuff is amazing, and so I was lucky to pick it up, and again, just super nice correspondence. This is from his 2023 calendar. which like when I got this page, the calendar was already sold out. And I sent them a nice note and I was like, hey, you know, I picked up the original page from like August. You know, if you have like a calendar laying around, I would love to like have the actual color, you know, go with it. And they just threw it in. It was really sweet. And just a real nice note. I sent them like a holiday thank you note and was just like to him and his wife and just like, hey, thanks guys, because they live in the Midwest. And you know, that's how we Midwesterners are, you know? So, you know how it is.
Oh yeah, no, I mean, I've always loved his work too, and you know, actually, I do have a couple like commission pieces, you know, by him, not just small stuff, you know, like the $300 pieces he sells on his site, but
yeah, so cool.
it is. I mean, he's such a great storyteller. I love his approach to, you know, how like he does those dioramas. I mean, I'm sure you follow him socially too, and he just does those cardboard dioramas of the set pieces for Mouse Guard that, and then he kind of moves them around and gets the lighting the way he wants, and then uses that as a reference to draw from. I just think he's such a creative guy, and I just love his approach to his craft, you know. And I mean, look at that, and I love the format too, right? I mean, the square format is just so neat and so unique to what he was doing, and it just fit so well with the storytelling too. So yeah, I love his stuff to death. I mean, I saw this, I was so happy. We don't look at a lot of his work during interviews. You know,
oh, good. Yeah, and I knew you were a fan, and so I wanted to include it. It's a piece that it's a recent acquisition. It makes me so happy. Each of those little guys, like, I mean, you could just, you know, focus on either any of those guys. They're just having so much fun. And Mouse Guard's such a great book. It's one that, you know, I've enjoyed, my wife's enjoyed. So yeah, when I told her, I was like, this piece was available, it was a no-brainer too. Cause yeah, I've always wanted to own something by him, and it's yeah, it's really, it's a beaut. His stuff is great. And I mean, you know, those books are magical. They're just so beautiful.
Yeah, they are. I mean, yeah, they were amazing. You know, from the first read, you know, you kind of look at it and think, you know, what could it be? You know, you think it's a gimmicky kind of book. I didn't know a lot going into it.
Right.
When I was captivated from the first page. And so, you know, it's so much the art as much as the storytelling. I mean, it was just, everything about it was just so wonderful. So, yep. No, he's at the top of my list of favorites.
I was looking. I must have like loaned them to somebody because I couldn't find like my hard copies of the books. So I'm like, now I got to buy them again. This is like, you know, you got to have those. Like those got to be in the permanent collection. They're just so great, and you can reread them. And yeah, I think the same thing too. Like when it came out, you know, we grew up during the time of Ninja Turtles and every Ninja Turtle ripoff. Yeah. That came out within a month, you know.
Radioactive hamsters.
Yeah. Kung Fu kangaroos and all the, you know, I've got them all still, you know. And then Boris the Bear kills them all. And, you know, so I was skeptical when I saw Mouse Guard. I was like, you know, but you're right. Like the moment you open it, it's just like, oh, this is not what I expected. This is really good. You know?
Yeah. Very true. You know, it's nice that that Sherry appreciates your hobby too. I mean, it's like, you know, she has some favorite pieces. Yeah. But I think you know, it's always good when you have a partner in crime with these things. I mean, my wife Maureen has always been very supportive. My kids love looking at the art. I mean, I bought a piece for my daughter for Christmas too. You know, so like trying to keep the whole family involved in the hobby one way or another. And you know, I think it's fun. It's another aspect of the hobby that's fun, that you can actually, you know, not everybody was going to get into the comic books I was reading, but art, we can all understand it. We all can like it.
I lucked out, Bill. I really lucked out. I mean, we watch all the comic book movies together. We geek out over stuff. You know, she's just as much a geek as I am, and we go. You know, we read books together and share comics. And you know, I don't buy a piece of art without her giving me the, you know, the nod, or she appreciates them, or, you know, and looks at them and helps me, you know, sometimes curate things. And, you know, she's always there when we frame together. So, you know, I got to have her eye.
No, well, it makes sense. I mean, she's going to be telling you where it's going to go, or where it could go. You know, I'm sure
absolutely.
I like that a lot. So do you keep a lot of art in portfolios? Is there things that you don't frame that you just kind of keep for the personal collection that just doesn't make it to the wall?
Yeah, you've only got so much wall space. So I think
Mhm.
we have to be very discerning about what we get framed. And so, yeah, we haven't framed, the Commandi page yet. And,
Mhm.
there's a lot of, I haven't framed any of the Sean Phillips, and, some of those are recent acquisitions. But yeah, there's still a few, I've still got like, I've got like a couple of Chaikin pages that are always just been in there. And those are big. Those are
Yeah.
extra big, and those haven't gotten framed yet. And so, yeah, I mean, I think it's and you got to think about what goes best with what, and so.
Tigley says, and she cleans the litter box. She's a keeper. Well, Josh didn't say whether he does some of the cleaning as
That
well.
is right. That is right. We share in most of the chores around the house. This is a egalitarian relationship, so
Yeah, no, it's
yeah.
you gotta work it that way. I've just tried. It's hard teaching the kids to kind of want to do those things. It's like they're cats, but my daughter is doing really good with the kittens. I think she's finally getting the hang of being a mother hen or mom to the cats and taking care of certain things. Oh well, there you go. So
Yep.
you clean it more than she does. So
I'm
we've
glad
settled that argument.
I got the credit, listen.
Debate. Yeah, there you go, Marcus. A family that frames together.
That's
Stays
right.
together.
That's right.
Absolutely.
We do a lot together. We share a lot of our job too. We write film and theater reviews, and we do some consulting and a little documentary filmmaking. So yeah, we do a lot together. And she's a great writer, and she's a teacher, and so yeah, it's
No, that's awesome.
we share a lot of the same passions, and we like to laugh, and we like the arts, and you know so I don't think I could be married to somebody who was like, another Marvel show, like, do we have to? I'm like, yeah, we're gonna watch them all. Like, she's as into it as I am, so
No, that's awesome. Yeah, my Maureen's side of the family, they were all thespians, and her father
Oh,
was
cool.
was a I wouldn't say he was a critic, but he wrote theater reviews for like the
Oh,
last
get out, man.
after he retired from working at GE. That was his thing. I mean, when he wasn't acting or sometimes directing, he was always he was a theater critic, review writer down here in
Where
Florida,
did he?
in the Villages, where there's like a dozen or more theaters, right? So there was a show to go to every night, or multiple times a week, and so he wrote for the paper, and
That's
that
great.
was yeah. And he wrote, he wrote a lot of short stories. He was a big sci-fi fan, so he would put together
Oh,
some
excellent.
yeah. Yeah, I'm glad, and I don't think about that too often, that's kind of out there. Hopefully my kids are listening, or we'll talk about that, because it's cool to relate that to your family, to let like the cool things that your grandparents or your parents did. But
Yeah, I mean, I it's so funny. My uncle sent me a bunch of my grandparents' stuff like several years ago, and I was going through it, and I found this playbill from like the Little Theater, which was a movement in the turn of the century in Chicago. And I didn't know that before they were married, my grandparents were like performing in theater. And Little Theater is what led to like the creation of Steppenwolf, which is a big theater here in Chicago, and Goodman
mhm.
and the Second City, which is where everybody from SNL and a lot of great comedians came from, Belushi and Aykroyd and all, Carell,
Mhm.
Colbert, and I was like, wow, there's this connection that they had, over 100 years ago to this theater, and that's really cool. And here we are working with the kids and grandkids of some of those same people, and doing theater reviews, and reviewing
Yeah,
movies.
that's awesome. I mean, it is, and I it always comes up. You've heard me talk about it. It's like we as art collectors, almost everyone to a T has some kind of arts background or family in the arts. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a unique hobby back to that. I mean, it's like we already the arts are in our blood. That's why
Mhm.
it's most people who I've met who are collectors. I can't even say that I've met a collector that doesn't have kind of an arts background in some way.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. It's you think about the fine art collecting genre, or world, and there's there's investors, and then there's people who just want to own a Picasso or whatnot. But
Sure.
our hobby is very different. I think we're all in one way or another, we're either closet creatives or we are creative. We're doing something unique in our business life, or at least in our hobbies, and it kind of, that's what bleeds over into us appreciating the original art and wanting to own it too. So
yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of us just grew up around it. I mean, my dad was in real estate, but when he was younger, he painted, and I came to a certain age where I realized all these paintings around our house were paintings my dad did. Like, that was really cool. And I had a friend growing up who discovered his dad did all these gorgeous collages around his house. And, so I think being exposed, as I'm sure you're exposing, you bought your daughter some beautiful art. Like, that's what's going to be such an influence, right, on her as she grows up, is being surrounded by this stuff, right? And seeing that it has value and that it's appreciated, and meeting artists and being just immerse them in it, and they'll love it.
Right. And you never know where you'll end up, right? I mean, I wanted to draw comics when I was a kid, but I ended up going to website design. It was still creative, and but I think that comics are, like, you always hear about how many kids learn to read from comics, or they learn the English language from comics. I mean, comics are just such, where would we be without comics? I mean, it's such a wonderful medium, and it's brought so many great things into the world. And
well, it's like, I think I sent you that, like, Representative Garcia just got sworn in on a Bible and a #1 copy of Superman, like he pulled from the Library of Congress or something. I mean,
that's right. That's why I was thinking about it. Yeah, you're right. He said he learned to read, right?
He learned to read from comics. Yeah. And it's like, wow, he learned English from comics. And I mean, it's more than just a dumb hobby. See, Mom?
Exactly. It's true. It's really true.
Yeah.
And I appreciate the hobby, or just comics in general, more and more, the more you kind of learn about how important it's been to so many people. And I'm sorry, I'm just laughing at the chat right now. Gwen posts that, her dad is Bill again. She does not. That's probably something she will never, ever tell any about. But my daughter Emma was with me when we were at that place in Florida, when the guy was like, and I looked at her, I said, Emma, what do you think, Emma? And she's like, that's pretty cool.
See, that's amazing.
Right. Because she
didn't roll her eyes.
Right. No, she was impressed. She was like, wow, all right. So I guess you are something, you act like you're something sometimes around the house. So now at least
now we know that complete strangers in the world might recognize you.
Yeah, that's true. But we, because all the kids dream about being streamers, right? I mean, that's what everybody wants to do. And I'm like, I never wanted to do this. This is not, but anyway, it's been fun. But let's see, I don't want to miss any questions out there. Let's see, but so they're still talking about me. But yeah, man. So Joshua, I mean, I appreciate the time you spent in the hobby, in the chats and the shows that we've done the last year too. I mean, and I'm glad you were free to do this. It's always fun to get to meet somebody, who appreciates, the stuff we're doing here, the stuff we've been doing on CAF, and I can't, again, you've been a member of the site for over a dozen years now. So that anybody that's been with me that long and, has kind of helped support the site, whether you're posting art or not, you're still there enjoying it. And, so again, I can't thank you enough for being a part of all this with us.
It's my pleasure, man. I appreciate the opportunity to chat with you and with the community, and to connect with people. And I've had art collectors now on CAF reaching out to me who are like, hey, I'm in Chicago, we should get together. And it's like, that's all I wanted with this hobby. It's like to find other people who appreciate it. Like I said, if it just hangs on my wall and we're looking at it, big deal. But like, having people over who appreciate it, and, meeting people, and through the all the stuff you guys are doing. And it's super fun. I love it. And, it's just a great community. And I think, like I said earlier, this is what's missing, like, from, I think, a lot of what we love in terms of collecting, which is community, and And, you know, whether it was going into a comic shop or going to a con and meeting people and hanging out with other collectors and going out and getting a drink, it's, you know, this is why we do it. Also, it's just, you know, to connect with other people and learn about art and laugh and have a good time. So
there are a lot of collectors in the Chicago area.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So, but I don't recall any like regular Chicago area meetups. I mean, there probably are, you know, like, you know, they're around the country, but yeah, there should be one. You would think there's,
Yeah,
know, somebody would
well,
host something.
if you're from Chicago area, reach out. We'll plan a meetup. I mean, I know there's at least one CAF guy who's got a restaurant down in the city or a bar, and he was mentioning, you know, getting together. So it's like, yeah, let's all get together. We could do it after C2E2 or, you know, anytime.
I've never made it to C2E2. I wouldn't mind. I mean, it's I've heard lots of good things about that show.
It's super accessible. We had such a ball, man. Like, I just, you know, I got a little teary-eyed because it was like kind of my first real comic convention. So I walked in and I was like, this is great. These are my people. Like, it was just, everyone's in costume, and there's room to breathe. You know, there's art dealers, there's comic dealers, there's the whole artist alley. Like, it's super fun. Yep. Club Lago. That's it.
Yep.
Got it.
Yep. The last time I was in Chicago, I met Cosro at Club Lago.
That's it, my friend. Kazra, thanks for showing up. Yeah, man. It's a party at Club Lago. We're coming down there.
Yeah, the food was great, and the conversation was good too. So.
Excellent. I'm down for it. Chicago people unite.
Well, if I ever make it that way, I will definitely let you know. If I'm going, especially if I'm going to C2E2.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll definitely have to get together so I can show you my Super Ahole limited edition.
Send me, honestly though, you know, send me like what the costume looks like. Give me, you know, one of the pages. Send me a scan of it.
Okay.
I can't think of what I might do yet, but I am going to do something, you know, with Super Ahole and a meme for Dueling Dealers.
Yep.
We're gonna make it happen.
I love it. I'll send you that tonight, Bill, for sure. And yeah, when you come to Chicago, we'll have a good time. Definitely.
Awesome. All right, man. Well, listen, I appreciate it. You know, you know, and I definitely appreciate everybody in the chat. We had a pretty decent sized audience for most of the show, so I always enjoy hanging out with everybody. Super Ahole rides again. New life. We're gonna breathe new life in the Super.
He's back, baby.
Oh man.
Yeah, thanks everyone for watching. Yep. This is great. This is really great. I put the word out to a few people, so it's nice seeing some familiar names. So
cool. Well, I'll see you again in the chat. You know, I've got the Dueling Dealers show tomorrow and CAF update on Thursday too. But thanks everybody, and you know, have a wonderful evening, and you know, we'll see you again very soon.
Thanks, Bill.